from Hello and welcome to December 14th coaching call or live stream, Ring Ads live stream. I'm William Mears. I'll be your host for this afternoon, evening, morning, wherever you're at. I am back after 2 hours straight in the mentorship, so I am raring and ready to go. 3 hours in total for the day. Let me just double check and make sure. It looks like we're good to go. Everything's dialed in here. I'm going to make this bigger, which is the live stream so I can see the comments. And I'm going to paste in the link for the Zoom. And if you'd like to come in and ask your questions live, I've got all the time and then some in the world for you. Because this is where I wrap out, not my day, but wrap out the sessions for the day. So I've cleared out at least half a day for this, which is plenty of time for us to do whatever we need to do. So the link is now for the Zoom room. If you'd like to come on live, ask your question, share your screen, get help with campaign optimization, campaign whatever. Could be scaling, could be client acquisition, agency setup, any kind of things like that. Let me know. I'll be able to help you with that directly. And if you don't want to come on live, that's okay. Ask questions in the comment section. I'll be more than happy to help you out with that as well. I don't know if we're going to have a ton of people on this call today. I mean, I don't mind if we do, but we already had our call at 11 for the daily call at 11 for the December Dash, and so I don't know if we're going to have a ton of people that are on this call, but if we do, I would expect that there's going to be some people that need some help with something. So again, feel free to ask questions in the comments, get some help there, and or come into the Zoom live with me. The link is posted in the comments below the feed, inside the Facebook group, inside the live stream, under the live stream, inside the free to join Facebook group, right? For those of you that don't know that, Ring Ads is free for life. Ringads.com, pick up the software. Yes, there are paid options. They help you, but they're not required to succeed in the model, in the business model that I teach. And the Ring Ads Facebook group, if you go to facebook.com, you can type in Ring Ads and you'll see a group called Ring Ads Paper Call. It's free to join. Feel free to join that. Matter of fact, I saw someone in the notifications that had requested to join, and I will add them now because, again, I don't like to necessarily do that stuff live, but I'm not seeing any questions or comments yet and nobody in the waiting room for the Zoom. So I'll go ahead and handle that. Now, if I don't have a ton of activity or any activity at all, I'm probably going to call this early, which I usually do that about a half hour in if there's nobody that's kind of tuned in, because I don't want to waste anybody's time or keep anybody from doing what they need to do, right? Which hopefully that makes sense. It does to me anyway. Kofi, got you, buddy. I put you in the group. You're golden. And then I think I saw some people commenting on some videos here. Uh, uh, mm, okay. Just answering some questions in some other places. If you have questions, ask away. Come into the live Zoom, ask away, whatever it is you need. Okay? Whatever it is you need. Oh, I see a question that Julian asked from an earlier session, and that is, would you recommend hiring sales on a commission-only basis or simply wait until cash flow net income is above? And the answer is actually both. And I'll put a smiley face there so he knows that I'm being lighthearted about it. Man, emojis are so important to context, giving context on what you're typing. So I would recommend hiring sales on commission only, kind of. I like, and I'm writing this out as well. So I like commission I like commission with hourly, even if it's lower. At least there's a base pay, so which is a hybrid, of commission only, right? And that's why I do that. And cash flow net always, right? Cash flow net on hiring for each position is an absolute as you're scaling, right? Uh, Also, for reference, I answered this live on the 14th call at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time about 4 minutes in, I think. Big smiley face. All right. Okay. Um, cool. So now we come back to comments. No comments, no questions. Okay. Oh, Julian says, William, I have some questions regarding keywords. By all means, sir, by all means, ask away. I do see that you're asking or that you're saying you're going to ask. And so I am here. Whatever you need. Matter of fact, I was just answering your question over from the other stream. So now you know that. Um, and you know the deal there. I tagged you on that. So you should be able to see that. Well, I don't think I tagged you. I did not tag you. I replied to your comment. So you should be able to see that. I replied to it from the other call there. So questions on keywords. I am all ears, my man. Whatever it is you need. The Zoom link is inside the Facebook group. I didn't post it publicly. I put it only inside the Facebook group. So if you'd like to join the Zoom, you're going to have to go inside of Ring Ads Paper Call, find the stream, which should be at the top or near the top. Look in the comment section, and you should see that. If you don't, sort by most recent as opposed to most relevant in the dropdown. And I don't know why Facebook does most relevant initially. It sucks. Most recent shows you all the comments, and you should be at that point able to see the Zoom link and ask away. So that's going to take about 10-15 seconds for that delay to kick in, for you to hear all that and find the link. But I'll be here. I'll be here looking for other questions to answer. I know everybody's kind of played out, ready to get moving. So there's probably not a ton of questions left, which is always a good thing. That's a good problem to have. Love that. Not going to complain about that by any means. Yeah, man, that December Dash session we did today at 11 a.m. was just boom, boom, boom. That was the most action-packed hour I've had in quite a minute. But a lot of fun. I got to admit, that was a lot of fun. What do we got here? Andy's congratulating Art for client number 7, which is pretty cool. Always fun to see that. Cool. Oh, waiting on you, Julian. I'm still here. Nothing to really. Oh, I know what I was going to do. I was going to talk about a couple of different. I'm going to provide a couple of different links for you for some stuff that I forgot to mention in the last coaching call. My bad. About account weight, Google AdWords account weight. It looks like some things have been modified in some of the search results, which kind of makes sense if you think about it. But and I see you in the waiting room, Julian. I'll get to you in just a second now. that I see you. Um, Wanted to cover this first. There's a couple of links I'll make sure to post inside the comment section to look at, but and one of them's from a site that, again, WordStream is the service I used to recommend, but ever since they screwed over our members and everything, was really not okay. And this is from back in the past, not for ring ads, but uh, they really did us wrong, and they know it, and it's never been made right, and so because of that, it's one of the few companies I'll publicly not endorse and tell you why. Um, and everything we did was not only above board, but approved by them in writing, and we can prove the fact that, or back then I could prove the fact that I don't have access to that stuff anymore, but I could prove that we not only kept to our word, we did above board, right? And for them to try and poach our members with individual memberships to their service was really, really shitty. It was a really shitty thing to do, and I wouldn't wish that on any company. But from time to time, they do have people that do know their shit based on data, and so some of the posts that they make do make sense. I do take it with a grain of salt and make sure that it's confirmed elsewhere before I just take it at face value because of the shit that they've pulled, obviously, in the past. But this particular post talks about quality score and how it impacts cost per click and all that. The thing is, though, like the quality score, a lot of people put too much weight on it, right? As opposed to intent. Again, our focus is intent because that's what drives the actual built call for us that makes us the money, not quality score. In fact, if anything, if it's directly contradicting quality score, intent is, then we're going intent over quality score every time, because even if we have to pay a little bit more for it, we know the intent is there. We know that because of the calls we're driving. So really, if anything, we're teaching Google AdWords that we want the intent, not that we care about quality score. And so over time, that will actually change even more than it already has over the last several years, especially when it comes to call ads. But all that leads to the point of me telling you I would address the fact that account weights come into play. Now, what I want you to understand is the quality score itself. Uh, if the quality score, and this is for all campaign types, not just call ads, right? But if you look at quality scores um, as an impact, as a factor of how an account is, or excuse me, how a campaign is evaluated, right? Um, Quality scores technically mean that your costs are lower as the quality score is higher, right? Well, if you have enough campaigns that are higher in quality scores overall, not just keywords or ad copy, right? That's higher in quality score, right? But if you have a campaign that has overall quality scores that are high, and you have multiple campaigns like that, then you actually get account weight, and that's not an unknown, and it's been denied before. But I'm telling you straight out, there's no way that they can not show favoritism in terms of the algorithm based on accounts at that level. Um, because there's things like all signs point to it. Like, for example, the way they do reviews, the way they suggest, as soon as people start doing well in the campaigns, like the way they suggest for you to spend more money through wanting you to talk to a specialist when really it's not a dedicated account manager and specialist. It's really deceiving. If you think about it, it's deceptive practices. Um, it's not illegal, and I wouldn't necessarily say it's unethical, but it's definitely not in your favor. And people that have been on those calls know exactly what I'm talking about. But I've got a couple of links here I'll share inside the comment section for that. There's also one about from Disruptive Advertising, which is really good, about 2,000 different AdWords accounts that they've audited over the years, and how the difference between, it's really interesting when you look at the difference between quality score versus intent, and how each point of quality score uh, actually costs you on your conversions. Believe it or not, it's really interesting. I'll have to share that as well. And I think there was something else: impression weighted quality score. Yeah, this one I still have to review, but the point is, again, everything's weighted at every level, and I think that's important for you to know that, because that means after you get a half a dozen campaigns or so that are doing well, then you're going to have an account that overall does well and it gets rewarded for that across all the campaigns. So that said, let me, Julian, you got two different. I'm just going to admit both of them. Looks like there's two of you, maybe two different devices here. I'm going to let both of them in, no problem, and see if we can get you set up here. All right, you might want to mute one of those. Yeah, there we go. I think.
Get you set up here.
You're probably going to want to mute the Facebook feed, Julian.
Okay.
That way it doesn't echo back, right?
Better?
Yeah, much better. I can barely hear you, though.
Okay, I'm not sure. All right, so let me mute this, unmute this one.
Is this better for you?
Yeah, you're going to want to mute the other one, though, so that there's not an echo.
All right,
Not
so
sure.
is that better now?
Sorry, say again.
Is that better now?
Yeah, but now there's an echo still. Why do you have two devices?
Because
Let's get rid of one. I don't think you necessarily need to, do you? Let's pick one to get rid of and pick one that's going to have the better audio, right? We'll figure it out. I muted you, by the way, on both, so I really can't hear you. I don't know what's going on, but find one, pick one to get rid of, and let's go. Let's go.
what's that?
That's good. Again,
Okay.
there's an echo, but you know, I mean, is there a reason why? I'm going to ask again. Is there a reason why we can't get rid of one?
I don't see how to get rid of the ones on the screen.
You don't. Okay, you've got two different logins here, which means two different devices, because you can't have two different Zooms on the same device. So pick a device, turn it off, and then you'll only have one, right? There you go. Perfect. All right, so unmute that one.
Okay, how's that?
Good. Now, see about fixing your audio in terms of like getting closer to the mic, right?
All right. So the question is regarding keywords, negative, and so forth. I'm doing a service, and it says something like towing service near me. Okay, so that's one keyword. But for example, if I put that with the, which is four words, if I did that with the pluses, or should I do that in the phrase? The reason being is that they might be asking for something like 24/7 towing service near me. Or they might be saying affordable towing service near me. However, if somebody says towing service near me, truck cost, I don't want that because they're trying to buy a truck. Or you see what I'm saying? So
I do, but I don't agree with what you're saying, if that's what you're asking.
what I'm asking is how best to include words that have more than four keywords in it. Or should I just simply put them as a separate group? For example, if I did 24/7 towing service as one group, that would include 24/7 towing service near me, closest 24/7 towing service, and so on and so on. That would be one keyword group. But
Okay,
I don't
I'm
want.
not quite understanding what you're asking. You're going to have to back up a second. Are you talking new keyword ideas? Are you talking converting keywords? What are you talking about?
I'm talking about writing the ads and putting the keywords into groups.
You're talking about writing the ads in what?
Putting them into keyword groups.
Okay, keyword groups. Keyword
groups.
groups you segment based off of not number of keywords or words in the keyword. You segment based off of topics. So roadside assistance, towing, right? Wrecker service, big rig service. You don't segment based off of number of words inside of each keyword, not on your main ad groups. Starting out with the brand new campaign, that's not what you do. So that's why I'm asking you: are you specifically referring to converting keywords?
Well, I
Like
haven't
when
run
you
the
have a
ad.
converting keyword?
What I'm wanting to do is to, let's say the seed keyword phrase is tow truck near me.
Okay.
And some people might be asking best tow truck near me, or best
Okay.
or
I
tow
follow.
truck.
I'm with you so far. Go ahead.
And some of them may be saying tow truck near me in city, or tow truck near me to unlock a car
Okay.
at the end of that four-word keyword
I
phrase.
understand fully. Let's arrive at the point
Now,
here.
now, what I don't want is tow truck near me for sale, which is somebody looking to get into the business,
Right.
and
That's
a
why
tow.
God made your negative keywords, right?
So
I make
what
the joke.
do I put in simply for sale as a negative keyword, or
You
do I
put in
put
the
tow?
operative word. That's exactly right. It's not for sale. It would be sale, right? And then any other iteration of the word sale or synonym for the word sale or sales, right?
Okay, so
That's what
it'll
goes
be
into your negatives. It's called we use the operative word that we don't want for the negative keyword side, right? That leaves us open, wide open, for every other possible search term that's going to be favorable outside of that. Does that make sense? So we don't have to do any phrases. We don't have to. We do broad. We do broad, so we cast a wide net, and we narrow that in based off of the negatives, and we use the operative word inside the negative keywords list to manage that effectively. And that's how we do things. There are many different ways to do it. That is the most effective way that I have found over the years. It's simple, it's easy, it's elegant. It can be copied very easily over to another client without cutting into different keywords that might affect different service offerings, etc. It's also less complicated to manage from a starting point for keyword selection. It helps you identify high intent without having to guess at what might be before or might be after a keyword. Just let Google give you the answers, man. You know what I'm saying? Keep it simple. So if you're thinking anything other than what I taught you on broad keywords, you're probably overthinking it, right? Focus on the negatives, focus on the operative word. Does that help any?
so in this case, if somebody was looking for a price to tow a car, um, as opposed to how to price a towing job, um, the operative keyword phrase would be how to price, as opposed to the word simply
When I
price.
say operative word, I mean word, right? You keep saying multiple words, right? You understand what I'm saying?
Yes, I understand.
Okay.
However, what I'm saying is that somebody may be searching for.
I understand
Um,
what you were saying. I just need to make sure that you understand what I'm saying because that's the second time you said that, something like that. So what would be the operative? There's actually is there only one operative in that example you just gave me, or is there more?
well, I think that the phrase "how to price"
It's
is
not a
operative.
phrase. Stop thinking in phrases. Operative word, singular. Please stop trying to fight that and accept it as a fact of what I teach. I'm not going to mold what I teach to what you want me to say. I'm going to give you what I know works and works well. Okay. It's your job to not interpret that, but to accept it. So when I say word, pick a word from what you just gave me, not a phrase, and make it the operative word. And let's try this again. Out of the example you just gave me, which word would you use as the operative?
Well,
And take your
they have
time. It's okay.
two different meanings, William.
Sorry,
I'll give you the two. I'll give you the two contexts of how this might work. If somebody
Julian.
typed in,
Julian? Can we stop for a second and just go through this and answer the question first before we go through what you think I need to hear?
what I think you want me to say is price.
Okay, so price would be a good negative. I would agree. Is that the only one? Is that the only operative word that you could use inside of your negatives?
Maybe how to would be a bad word.
How to is how many words?
It's two.
Okay, so then what would you do?
I would use the word how.
There you go. So now congratulations. No joke. I'm not being a smartass. You now would have optimized your campaign the way I would have. And then every iteration or every synonym that's related to how to as a phrase, but as a singular word. So DIY would be do it yourself, even though DIY is not technically a word. People search shit like that. Uh, then you've got price, and there's different ways to say price, cost, right? Cheap, expensive, right? All those kinds of things, and add them to your negatives. And now you have successfully worked through what someone has typed in and processed all the possible negative variations of that. Okay. Now, the context that you were about to explain to me, do you need to explain that to me now?
Yes.
Okay, go for it. I just want to make sure
Somebody,
that you understood how to optimize properly because you were kind of skipping over that, right?
if you put the word price, just the word price as a negative, then that would stop my ad from showing up if somebody wanted to type, what is the price to tow 60 miles? Or what is the price to tow 20 miles?
I wouldn't want that kind of a call
Why?
because I don't want that kind of call. Why would you want that kind of call?
Because they've broken down the side of the road, they know how far they are from their destination. And before they call somebody, they want to know how much will it cost me to get to my destination?
This shows me how much you just don't understand the vertical you're in, my man. That's not when someone's broken down on the side of the road, they don't think like that. And the fact that you're trying to make people as if they think like that, it's not good. The people that are asking price based on mileage like that have a car that needs to be towed from one house to another, or from their house to the auto dealership, or from this location to that one, and they've looked it up on Google Maps and they know the mileage, not because they're on the side of the road. So, not that those are necessarily bad calls, but are they the most urgent?
No, I've already put it in my negative keyword list. However, I just wanted to know, should I put the entire phrase?
Holy
How
shit.
much?
Julian, when are you ever going to understand? I hope it's today that I don't use phrases in negatives in the negatives list ever. I only use what?
Single words.
I only use what?
Single words.
Singular words, right? Uh, Not necessarily in singular form, but I only use one word, and I call it the what?
Weak keyword.
Starts with an O.
Operative.
Operative, 100%. And as long as you think like that, and please, for the love of Christ, stop saying the word phrase to me. I've never ever taught you phrase ever, never will, and don't expect to anytime in the near future nor distant future, based on what I know about how Google AdWords works, or excuse me, Google Ads. It's just not it's not good for what we do, right? So forget the phrase stuff. I don't know where the hell you learned that from because it sure shit wasn't for me. Please stop saying it because it makes me concerned. It concerns me on the level of like if you keep saying it, then that means you're probably going to do something with that. I don't want you to do anything with that. You don't need to do anything with that. Uh, and then price and cost and cheap and expensive, those are things that you don't want to target because the urgency is not there as much in your vertical, in that vertical specifically. And again, people are not thinking from a place of, man, I'm on the side of the road and I'm 60 miles from home or 6 miles from home. Uh, let me call a tow truck, right? And find out. But before I do, let me waste some time and find out how, how much somebody's going to charge me for the 6 miles, right? It's much easier to call someone up and find out and just look up a tow truck company. Um, More times than not, you'll find people look up competitor names, local names in the area that are known as opposed to just tow truck searches. You will find those as well, but a lot of competitor calls will come in for that kind of stuff. And you'll hear it in your phone call recordings. And again, this is something, the reason I say you don't know your market as well as you need to is because that's something that will come up in market research, believe it or not. And this is not our first conversation about that kind of stuff, right? Um, I understand why you're asking about the keywords. I get it. I just want to make sure that you're crystal clear on how I optimize, why I do it the way I do it, what benefits there are from it, and the fact that I've also never taught you phrase ever, 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 ever for negative keywords anyway, right?
So I'm looking at a negative keyword phrase I put into my list, and it's best tow truck. Because I'm thinking somebody is typing in best tow truck because they're looking to buy a tow truck for their business. But somebody might be typing in best tow truck company near me or best tow truck service near me in order to get somebody who they think is reputable to come out and help them.
Right.
So if we just use best as being a negative,
Why would
then
you use
that's
best as being a negative?
because I'm not going to use tow truck.
I'm sorry?
I will not use, why would I use tow truck?
You just said you would use best as a negative keyword. Why would you use best as a negative keyword?
I don't want to use best as a negative
Then,
keyword.
then don't. I've
But
never
I
said,
don't want, but I don't want to use or have, but I want to have best tow truck as a negative keyword phrase. Because if somebody's typing in best tow
no.
truck, they're looking, how would I stop somebody, how would I stop an ad to appear for somebody looking to find the best tow truck to buy to go into the business, but have it appear so that somebody who's looking for the best tow truck company to come and help them to appear?
You would put in all the operative words for sales, like we just covered, like we just talked about. You might still occasionally have somebody call up looking for sales. Highly doubt it based on your ad copy. Most people are going to know that's not what I'm looking for, right? And like I said, occasionally that'll happen. But when I say occasionally, I mean rarely. It's not going to happen all the time. What you're talking about is like uh, such a rare occurrence that it was hard for me to understand what you were asking me. Why you would put best in or try to put best in the negative keyword section. It's not, no, you need to look at it the other way around, right? You need to look at it the other way around. Put in the words that you know that are negative in the negatives, right? And make sure all the synonyms or variations of the way to say that word are also in the negative keyword list. And don't exclude, that's why we work off the operative word. You don't exclude or put in the negatives the keywords that can lead to good searches. And best is a word that can definitely lead to good searches. How you optimize for that is through ad copy and also through making sure words like sales, making sure that models and makes and models and years of tow trucks specific information is also included in your negatives. Hint, hint, wink, wink. That should keep you pretty fucking busy if you haven't already put all that stuff in. And all that's going to keep you uh, uh, away from, especially with cost and price, that's also going to help a lot to keep you away from people looking to purchase a tow truck versus people looking for the best tow truck company to call up and have a tow happen, right? Um, yeah, man. I mean, I'm not sure why you're headed that way, right? On the mental side of things, right? I'm not sure why your head's there, but I assure you, for this vertical, there are many people that are doing 3-to-1, 4-to-1 in this vertical right now that are doing exactly what I teach, 100%, 100%. So I'm not saying I have all the answers. I'm saying I got more than enough for you to be pointed in the right direction, and your head's not necessarily in the right space for um, how to process the negatives. It's not done on a phrase. It's done on an operative word, right? One word, and you get every variation of that word that you can get, every synonym you can come up with for that word, every idea that comes up that would make sense. And you got to play it out sometimes on some of the keywords and things that are being searched. But again, the more data you get, the better that process, the easier that process becomes. 100%. 100%. Is that all Java? Does that all make sense?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
I just see in that particular case that one keyword in the negative would work to obviate somebody looking to buy a tow truck. Um, in that case, because the phrase that I
Julian,
found,
let me ask you something. Are you trying to get things so perfect that you never get started, or what? What's going on here?
what I'm trying to do, my first question is, how do I optimize for the root, what I call phrase, because I don't think in this single words, I think it's keyword phrases, regardless of what call them as keywords. They're several words strung together. So to me, that's a phrase. Mentally, in my mind, that's a phrase. Um, however, best tow truck, in this particular case, somebody looking for best tow truck is looking to buy a tow truck. But the word best is not the negative. And tow and truck are not negatives. The whole thing, all three words would be the negative in this case. But if somebody was typing in best tow truck service near me, then that's definitely something I want my ad to appear for.
Okay. And what are you basing this off of? How much data?
I've looked at different companies, looked at their keyword lists,
No.
and seen
How much campaign data are you basing your decision off of that you just said?
zero because I haven't run a campaign. I'm looking at other people's campaigns in terms of
Okay.
what they're putting keywords into their
And
keyword list.
I'm telling you straight out, until you run your own campaigns, you're not in a position to make that decision to the best of your ability. You do have the ability to make good decisions. There's no doubt in my mind, or I wouldn't be talking to you right now. Uh, that's not, man. I wish I could help you more than I'm helping you, because clearly I don't think you're getting it. Um, we based everything off of operatives. We don't do phrases. I don't care about what you're saying because you're after perfection and I'm after 3-to-1, 4-to-1 on my money for towing with clients and actual campaign data. Now, you can argue with that all day long from a position of no campaign data. Best of luck to you, right? I want to see you go get clients, pull in your own campaign data, show me your screens, and let me help you optimize and show you in real time what it's going to take to produce 3-to-1, 4-to-1 on your money, as opposed to sitting where you're at right now. Does that does that make sense? Are you agreeable to that? Are you committed to that?
Most definitely, yes.
Okay, so let's start on that. Let's start on that. What is it that you need to do in order to get to that point where you've got clients and campaign data coming in? How can I help you do that? Because I think that's going to be a much more productive conversation. Not that the conversation we've had has been unproductive by any means. I think you've learned a lot in terms of how we optimize and why we do things the way we do. But at the same time, it's going to make a hell of a lot more sense when we're actually able to apply it together. If that makes sense, like us actually doing it together, it's going to make a lot more sense for sure. So how do we get you to that point where, um, like, what is it that you need? Is there anything that you're missing? Like, are you set up with Dollar Central? Do you have your agency website? All that kind of stuff. Is everything in place, or what's going on?
Yes, I have the Dial Central today. I'm just about loading in the list, and that's why I
Okay.
asked you the question about whether it should be by time zone or by state or by metro area.
Yeah. Was that you that asked that?
Yes.
Yeah, it was a good question. I was like, I gave you a straight answer on that. It was by time zone is preference. I don't do metro area. Um, it's too granular. I like a wide net because I want to pull in clients, and over time, would I eventually target down? Yeah, but at the same time, it's not something I want to do personally. I want to have staff that do that. It's like, hey, you know what? We could use another client in Houston, Chicago, and Atlanta. Go nuts, right? And have them focus in like that. But most cases, I'm still going to have them at least a time zone level. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So hopefully
And
that gives you some
yes,
perspective there.
and I have a lot of keyword lists. about to write the ads and so forth. But um,
A lot of, I'm
I,
sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. I hate to do this, but it's harder to hear you for some reason. I heard some of that, but it sounds like you're just so far away from the mic, it's not actually picking up all of what you're saying. Um, you said something. I have keyword lists that what?
I have keyword lists. I'm about to. I've grouped them into what I call um, ad groups. Um, you know, tow truck near me would be one, for example. Tow truck company would be different. Towing service would be different, and so on, so on.
Okay.
So I could do that. Um,
Well, I would highly advise that you rethink that and go with general and go with roadside assistance. Right? There's going to be general and there's going to be towing and roadside assistance at the most. Three ad groups to start with. General would
okay,
be someone looking for a towing company. Towing would be someone specifically using towing keywords or phrases. And again, they have to be all high intent, right? Anything less, anything different than that, or alternative than what I just mentioned, tends to lead to less intent keywords. Most people end up picking up that are going to cost you money, 100%. So please take that for what it's worth and resegment your keywords. Do you have access to Ring Ads Mirror?
um, what is that exactly? Is that where
The copy of
the
the campaign, the copies of the campaigns, right?
no, I don't.
You don't. Okay. I was going to say you could just grab them from there, but if you're going to do it yourself, that's fine. Just do it the way I teach. Right? Grab the high intent keywords. Make sure that they're high intent. Segment them based on those three ad groups for that particular vertical, and you'll be fine. General, towing, and roadside. Those three. Start with that. Start with the low bid too. By the way, start with for your vertical. Shit, man, I'd probably start with like $1, $1.50. It starts out pretty low. I mean, by the time you hit $3, it's going to be traffic, no doubt, traffic. As long as you're not in a rural area, if you pick a city out in the middle of fucking Kansas or something, no. But if you pick Atlanta or if you pick, Miami or shit, man, anywhere, Fort Lauderdale, Houston, San Diego, doesn't matter. Any decent sized city, you're going to see immediate and expedient volume feedback in your
Yeah,
campaign data.
that kind of depends on how I get the clients. If, for example, I'm doing by time zone, there can be a lot of smaller towns within that time zone, which is why I was thinking I would go by state and only put in the biggest cities in the state.
No, I don't think you know how our time zones work. Have you looked at a time zone map for the US?
I have, yes.
Okay, every time zone has major cities in it. Every fucking one of them.
Right. However, what I'm saying is that Atlanta is the largest city in Georgia, as far as I'm aware, but there could be a smaller city like, I'm not sure, like um, um,
Macon, Georgia.
Augusta, or Augusta, for example,
What about it?
which may be only 100,000 people living there, or
And
90,000. Is that too small to?
no, considering most of those people have cars. No, not at all.
All right, all
Not
right,
at all.
okay.
You
So
know, is
yeah,
it is it is it a place you want to target out of the gate intentionally? No, no. But that also doesn't
no,
mean that you're gonna. I'm telling you right now, you're gonna find where most of the cars are for your vertical. You're gonna find most of the towing companies are gonna be. Kind of makes sense, doesn't it? Where everybody needs the towing, they're gonna be more towing companies, right?
sure. It's just what I'm thinking though is when I spoke with Sherry this morning. She said she recommended I do it by time zone, but then I'm
Yeah.
looking at the time zone data, and there are a lot of cities that are really small intermixed within that in that time zone data. Um, and, um, and how would I? And, if the dialer is leaving messages with everybody from small cities to large cities, as opposed to just Atlanta, as opposed to just Boston, as opposed to just New York, or as opposed to just Washington, D.C., then I would know that I'm getting clients in major metropolitan areas, major cities. But if it's doing the, from the entire eastern seaboard on, there could be much smaller towns or cities within that I may get a client for, which won't give me the data I'm looking for.
In most cases, smaller cities are townships of bigger cities or just outside of bigger cities that tend to service the bigger city at large. Your question is very much of an analysis paralysis mode or overthinking mode at the very best case. Um, it's keeping you from doing what you need to be doing, right? Otherwise, you'd have had clients weeks ago, man. I think if I remember right, you've been set up for a while now, and I'd much rather see you just go, you know? A lot of these questions, not that I can't answer them because I just did and have been, but man, they're so much easier to answer when you get moving, right? And we work together and I show you what can be done on the move. There's a different pace that comes with the action that is missing right now, and hopefully you see that. I would not be concerned uh, with what you see or what you may think you see in time zone data. I'm telling you right now, there's not a time zone in the United States that does not have major metro areas. I don't care what you say you see in the data. I know my time zones. I've lived here all my fucking life. Like I've lived all over the country, I might add as well, actually in every different time zone that we have, north and south, east and west, except for a lot of the Pacific Northwest. There's some places up there, but I'm telling you straight out, man, you're in overthink mode. Simplify, get more action. Like you should be at the stage right now where, and I just described this over in the mentorship pretty well, so I'll do it here as best I can too. So there's a certain stage where you've got to be at that one part learn, two part do, meaning two parts of doing for every one part of learning. That's if there's ever a time that you would be that this would make sense, it would be right here, right now for you. Um, Not singling you out or anything, because I love you. I just want you to see what I see and see that, man, you've done everything but get moving. And you're the most prepared individual I know. At the same time, it's a double-edged sword. You're so prepared that you've gotten stuck in this mode of asking questions that, and you're getting answers to them. I want to be fully transparent here. I'm going to always answer your questions. There's never going to be a time I'm not going to answer questions. There's going to be times where you may not like the answers you get or how they're being answered, and that's because of what I'm about to describe now, which is the lack of action that is because of those questions, or the questions that come up because of the lack of action, rather. Um, my goal is not to sit here and answer questions for you just to answer questions. My goal is to see you succeed in the business model. And that is not going to happen by you just asking the questions and not coming back with progress headed forward, right? That's the ultimate goal there, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So as long as we're on the same page with that, I mean, now you know where my head's at, you know where my heart's at. Is there anything that you don't have done that would keep you from or prevent you from going after clients or client acquisition, taking that next step?
I
Sorry?
haven't I
Oh, okay.
haven't spoken with the uh, I haven't spoken with the
With the,
towing roadside assistant towing companies directly. I have done all the research about their by looking at the forums, looking at the videos online, by
so
reading books.
you haven't done the market research for the calling side, the 20 calls, the 20
I
decision
haven't
makers
done,
slash
I haven't done
managers,
right. I haven't done that and spoken with them directly as to what they're looking for, what they're prepared to pay, and what
what
are
they're
their
used
most.
to, what their experience is like. Yeah, there's a lot
Oh,
of value out of that.
I know about that. I know what they're used to, and I know about what they are their frustrations. I know the software they're using, or some of the software they're using. I know about the different uh, clubs that are driving them calls, whether it's Agera. or whether it's honk, or whether it's swoop, or I know about those sorts of things. I know what they are able to charge their clients. I know about the cost unladen per mile, cost travel laden, hookup fees. I know all of those things, what they charge. I know where they get their jobs from primarily. See which companies are advertising, which ones are not. Um, but I haven't spoken with them directly. I've, I've eavesdropped on one particular company, and he has posted a lot of things online about his journey as a tow truck company operator.
Okay. So
And then
that's the one thing. So you're mentioning that because
yeah,
that's the one thing you haven't had done yet.
that's one thing I haven't had done.
Here's my
Next is
question. Here's my question. Are you going to do it before you start prospecting?
sure, yes, I was going to do it today. So
Man, that
I'll
was a
report
hell of a
tomorrow.
satellite delay or something. Are you gonna do it? Where were you evaluating there? Were you evaluating whether you were actually gonna do it or not? Holy shit. Man, that's kind of
No,
scary.
my goal was to start the campaigns tomorrow. Was to load up the list tonight, start the campaigns tomorrow, and
That
have
should have no
conversations with
bearing. That
people.
should have no bearing whatsoever on whether or not you're doing market research calls or not. That's what I was asking you about. Why the long pause there? What were you
Well,
evaluating?
it's 6 p.m. now. I'm still have to load up the list. That means I have to call in California or Hawaii in order to
I'd
get
go
people to.
tomorrow. I'd start it tomorrow. But my point is, are you going to do it? I didn't ask you if you were going to do it tomorrow or today. I asked specifically, are you going to do it before you start your prospecting? Is what I asked. That's all.
Sure, yes.
And the reason I would ask you that, I know you already know the answer to it, but for everybody else, the reason I want you to do the market research calls before you prospect is because I don't want you to have to try and do both at the same time, right? Close clients and prospect, because what you'll find is it's near impossible. You can do one or you can do the other, and that means you'll be burning your sales calls as market research, which is that's really shitty, and it's very demotivating. And it's like, man, my close rate's off. No, your market research sucks. That's what the problem is, right? And I just don't want you to have to learn the lessons the hard way, dude. Right? I've had many people I've taught down this exact vertical that are still doing well, and it's a very profitable vertical, and usually one that's very profitable out of the gate, actually, um, based on the keyword setup in your campaign and the ad copy that you use and things like that. Which, if you notice, that's another reason why I'm being very stickly with you about the negatives, right, and how to actually process it and get that phrase shit out of your head, because it's going to cost you. Um, Not because there's not a million different ways to do it, but Jesus, man, if you get bogged down into the million different ways to do anything, there's so many different facets to this business model. You're going to be stuck here 6 months from now, and I don't want that. I don't want that for you. Not for anybody, actually. Fuck that. I
No,
don't want
I
that for
don't want that
anybody.
either.
Okay.
I need to get at least 10 clients for the end of the
Well,
year.
don't put that kind of pressure on yourself, right?
Well,
You said before the end of the year.
yes.
Okay. Let's back up for a second. Let's start with, and this is where most people, by the way, I just got off the call in the mentorship talking about pressure, right? We always put this pressure on ourselves. And so, Julian, this is not just for you or anything, it's for everybody listening in. Um, cool, because I get to talk. It's cool because I get to talk about it in the mentorship and also here. But here's the thing. Um, when you put that kind of pressure on yourself, like, do you make, when you're under high pressure, high amounts of pressure, because that's really what that is, do you tend to make, and this is again for everybody, so take this into account, do you tend to make better decisions, Julian, or worse decisions if you're under high pressure?
I tend to make snap decisions.
Snap decisions, which are also leaning towards which way?
Um, Both what I think and what I feel in the moment.
Okay,
So
you're
if
not going to give me a straight answer on it, are you?
I thought that was a straight answer, will you?
No. I asked you, good, do you make better decisions or worse decisions? That's the question I asked you when you're under high pressure. Jesus. It's a very simple question, and you give me this
Okay, probably
very
probably worse.
politely worded answer
Probably worse.
that's it's probably worse. Okay, so you
Yeah,
can't even get that straight. Like, probably. Really? You really have to say the word probably? You can't
yeah.
just admit it to. Here's the thing. Forget about me for a second, Julian. This is all about, well, this conversation, you and me. This is just us, right? And this is something else I had to address earlier on the mentorship call. Everybody else listening in is either in the same boat you're in or has thought the same things or similar things. So don't worry about them and worry about where they're at. Let's worry about where you're at, because that's what we're trying to do, is get you to the level of success you want to be at. So let's pretend they don't exist. Fuck it. If anything, this is an exercise in your progress and your journey that everybody's going to be able to look back on and go, man, that fucking Julian guy, he finally got it. It clicked. It made shit happen. So let's focus on what we're doing right now. When I ask you a direct question, it's a struggle, and it's not a struggle to answer me, right? Because yeah, I'm the one that's actually asking, but really, it's a struggle to bring it right in your own mind. It's hard to explain other than to say the question I asked you was very much like a mirror. And the best you could come up with so that you could leave yourself an out, not me, not for the conversation we're having, right? But for yourself, is to say, well, probably, right? That very vague uh, generalization of a negative. It's either, and it very much is an absolute. It's either you under high pressure, you make good decisions or you make bad decisions, typically, right? Not probably, right? Name, and that's the thing. Can you name a time that you've ever been under extreme amounts of high pressure that you've made a great decision that you can just be like, yeah, that was fucking awesome? Can you ever name a time? Can you? I'm curious.
When I wrote my thesis for my final deployment.
That's when you're under high pressure. But what was the decision you made under high pressure to write your thesis? Just because you were under high pressure doesn't mean, like, did you make a decision while you were under that pressure to write your thesis? That would be more accurate of a scenario.
The decision was to get it done in 4 days, and I did. Yeah,
The decision
but
was to get it done in 4 days.
was to get it done. Was to get it done. To stop sitting on the pot, as it were, and to just pull the trigger and get it done.
Okay, I
And
don't
then I
know if
did
that
that.
necessarily qualifies. That's
Right.
not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about you're under pressure from something else, right? An outward influence. In other words, undue pressure. I've got to get 10 clients. It's an external pressure that you're putting on yourself, right? To squeeze you. Now, what kind of decisions are you going to make when you have
Well,
that kind of pressure on you?
I'm not focused directly on the outcome, although the outcome is the goal.
Let me
I'm more
tell you
pro.
100%, Julian, when you set goals like that for yourself, 100%. So one of the reasons why I'm not a big goal guy, right? And I'll explain that in a second. It may not work for everybody, but I'll tell you right now, you're definitely someone that should be latching onto this because of where you're at and how you tend to process things. 100%. I can tell you from personal experience because I used to be in that mode of where you're at. 100%. Um, when it comes to uh, how you're processing um, under high pressure, anytime you make a commitment like that, not that commitment's bad, but anytime you make a commitment like that you don't know if it's even possible. Like, do you even know if it's possible to hit 10 clients? If it's possible for someone to hit 10 clients between now and the end of the year?
I believe it is. Yes.
It is. Okay, good. And it is. So that's good that you believe that, because that's also true. Uh, do you know the amount of work it takes once you start prospecting? You're not there yet, obviously, with market research calls still to do. But once you start prospecting, do you know the amount of effort and energy and fine tuning and work that goes into the sales conversations, the setup, the onboarding, all that stuff, campaign work included in the back end in order to not only acquire 10 clients, but acquire 10 clients and start delivering to them? Do you understand the full amount of and scope of work that's going to be required to get to those 10 clients?
I don't, but I. However, I know the processes, and that's why I wanted to start setting up the ads and the ad groups and
I
so
got you.
forth, so that
I'm with you.
when the
Okay.
clients are coming in, it's already done, and I can just simply say your campaign switched on. I know their counties, I know their zip codes, I know what services they're looking to do, and so
Hmm.
forth. And
But what you don't
I
know is how much time the optimization takes out of the gate. Here's my point. I know about your schedule, right? And I'm glad we had that conversation how many ever days ago, because now I can tell you with a certainty that 10 clients is going to be not a stretch, but you're going to feel that in more ways than one. Kind of like a good leg workout where it's like, fuck, I can't walk the next day or the next day after that and the day after that. It's going to be that kind of a stretch. Not impossible. Just understand what you're putting, pressure wise on yourself, and that's going to lead you to make bad decisions because you're under that kind of pressure from yourself. So what I would rather see you do is take it from an approach like I do, or something similar, which is going to be this, man. So focus on one thing at a time to start. Worry about multitasking later, right? And some people can't ever do that. I've met them, worked with them. It's much more challenging and difficult for me to work with someone who can only do one thing at a time, but it's still possible, right? It's still possible to run this business model that way if you systemize and process everything the way I teach you to do. It's not only possible, it's very likely that you're going to see success, right? Um, because you're still doing what you need to be done. It just happens to be one thing at a time. Right now, you need more focus on just the next step because your mind tends to do like mine, which is I got to know A to Z, right? Now, over the years, I've actually been able to develop habits and triggers, if you will, to where whenever my mind starts to go A to Z, I say, no, I don't need A to Z. Let me quickly find out what A to C is. And then I'm just going to go and get A to C, as in Charlie. So Alpha, Bravo, and Charlie done today. And I'll worry about Z if that's even fucking possible later. Because I'm going to tell you right now, the people that never get started because they're still trying to figure out the link between LMNOP and why it doesn't link up to the rest of the alphabet from A to Z, right? Are still back at A while I'm on LMNOP, working through it, figuring it out. And I might get stuck and I might have to go back a few letters and then again, straightforward at it again. Whatever it is I got to do, I'm going to be able to do it because I'm already doing. And a lot of what I'm teaching you is going to come down to that. Not just you, my man. This is for everybody because a lot of people get stuck in this whole, oh well, if I do this and the numbers and carry the two and what's it going to be like first of the year and 10 clients and they set these goals and I'm not saying what you set was unrealistic. It's realistic. It's a stretch. It's a quite a bit more of a stretch than I would say at this stage, given that you have the market research to do, and if you start that tomorrow, that's great. Um, it's entirely possible. If you do it, you're going to be my fucking hero. Um, but I'll tell you the truth: if you get one client and before the end of the year, then you're going to be my hero because you're going to have proof to yourself that this works. Hell, more specifically, one client and have delivered phone calls successfully to one client and have multiple clients on board or on the way to being onboarded, along with again campaign data for all of them. That's going to be a good ending to the year for me, for you in my mind. Um, Shoot for 10. There's nothing wrong for those of you that are goal minded, goal oriented. There's nothing wrong having a goal like that. I just don't want you to get heartbroken if you don't hit it because I'll tell you something, man. You going after 10 and you hit 5 and that's how you end the year. That's a fucking good end of the year, man. I'm just saying. Like I want you to in other words manage your expectations a little bit to where not that you're prepared for the uh, well, I always plan for the best, prepare for the worst, yes, but you don't have to be like me in that sense. I just want you to understand that that's a possibility and that you're okay with it because either way, long term, meaning over the next 30, 60, 90 days, long term, 5 clients or 10, you win. And that's why you're my hero, right? Um, does that kind of make sense why I'm saying that and Why don't get attached to goals that are putting you under super high pressure? I'd much rather you say, you know what, fuck it, I'm going to do market research tomorrow. I'm going to nail that out of the park. Show William I know this vertical, which, by the way, just for research on your vertical, without having made any calls, it's pretty extensive. It's good. I'm very happy with the level that you've taken it to. It's going to make your calls so much fucking easier, by the way, the market research calls, and ultimately your sales calls after the market research calls. Um, I couldn't be more proud of you that you're at that level of understanding. It needs to be person to person, though, business owner to business owner, if you will, is going to make a big difference. You're going to find out how people actually feel about it across the board, about the different issues, about the different setups, what they're comfortable to, what they're open to, and hear it in their own words and be able to feed it back to them on sales calls. I'd say if there's any kind of secret sauce, which there's not really, if there's anything missing from what you currently have, that would be it. And what you gain from that on market research is invaluable from the time you start the first sales call you ever do. Um, that said,
I do agree
uh,
with you with regards to that. Um,
yeah,
I do agree with that because I think that would acclimatize me to their mentality
100%,
and
dude, 100%.
also the emotionality they would that I would be knowing that they have, even though I know
Hmm.
it intellectually and I've seen it with others and I've seen their comments as to the challenges what they're going through.
Yep,
And I know what it takes in terms of number of calls or number of jobs per day that they need just to break even to maintain their vehicles.
yep.
I'm aware of all that.
The biggest
Um,
thing for you, my man, is going to be keeping it simple with these guys because you have a tendency, and there's nothing wrong with it. Just be aware, right? You have a tendency to not keep things as simple as they could be. And all these guys are looking for, by the way, is simple. That's all they want. They want them phone calls. They want that business. And if you can be their magic guy who does everything behind the scenes to make that happen, that's all they ever need to really know about you, ultimately, right? Um, I,
okay.
I know this. I'm guilty of it, or I wouldn't be calling you out on it already. Watch when you get on some of your sales calls, they're going to talk themselves out of it, or you're going to talk yourself out of a deal because if you're not mindful of this, because you started getting too complicated with the simple decisions, right? Or sometimes that leads to being too flexible and open to taking deals that we wouldn't normally take, if that makes sense, um, to accommodate as opposed to, hey, this is very much, square peg, square hole. This is what we got. If it don't fit, it don't fit. Move on, right? Whereas someone who's overthinking, right, may tend to, well, let me try and make that fit. Nope, right? The thing is like a lot of people don't understand this about owning their own business, and it extends through everything you do and will do from now till the time you no longer own a business. Okay, so listen to this very carefully. This is again for everybody, not just Julian. I'm not just singling Julian out or anything. Um, this is okay. So you when you work a 9 to 5, uh, whose rules are you under? And I'll let Julian answer because I know he knows the answer to this.
Well,
Whose rules are you under?
the company's
The
rules, I guess.
companies or the employee or employer, right? Employer. Okay, so your boss, basically. Let's
Mm-hmm.
shorten it up. So your boss. Um, when you are a business owner, whose rules are you under?
And my own.
Your boss. It's the same answer. It's you, though. That's the difference. See, most people take advantage of that. And here's the thing, we take it, I say we, most of us take advantage of that, not understanding at least out of the gate while we still have a baby, a business baby. Remember you hear me talk about the business baby? So I'm breaking out the business baby again. The baby ain't grown enough to, not stop shitting on itself and eat its own food and stuff, even make its own food, right? It's nowhere near that level, right? Yet most of us as parents to that business baby, we finally got a baby, and now it's like, and I'm just going to go do whatever the fuck I want to do. No, you can't do that, right? Not if you expect that baby to live, right, and grow. Um, so the equivalent of that is, yes, you are the boss or the boss man or the boss woman, but you have to establish boss rules because if you don't for yourself, God help you when you try to hire somebody. You know what I'm saying? Like it really gets out of control. Um, and the thing is, like, that means setting hours for yourself. Even if you're still currently working a 9 to 5 for somebody else under somebody else's rules, you need to day one, even if it's only 1 to 2 hours a day, set those boss rules as the boss for yourself the same way. And not just hours, but also how you do things, the type of clients you take. I always like to call it company policy. And it's not a made up thing. It kind of is because everybody gets to make their own company policy. But company policy is company policy. That's in the largest of corporate settings to the small, it should be the smallest of companies. From day one, you should have some kind of corporate policy or company policy where we don't do percentage deals. That is company fucking policy, right? And you don't have to be an ass about it when you say it to them. But the reason I say it so certain like that with the hand gesture, that's like an instructor, a drill instructor, is because I want you to be as certain as a boss man or boss lady on your business about what you accept, what you don't. That's that square peg, square hole shit I was talking about earlier, just a few minutes ago. When you have that, when you get on the phone, all you're looking for is the right square peg to fit the right square hole. That's it, right? All the circle and triangle shit is for somebody else or for you down the road, maybe, but not today, not right now. You're looking for the square peg, square hole. And how you know you've adjusted that or picked the right shape, if you will, for square peg, square hole, because maybe for your vertical, it's a round peg, round hole, right? Or the triangle or the star, if you remember that old game, uh, toddler toy. Uh, the reason how you know that is through good market research, like solid market research. That's how you're going to know that your leads are priced appropriately, that you're offering it to the right types of services. Conversations with me after your market research can confirm that and validate exactly what you were already thinking. Maybe a couple of small adjustments, but for the most part, keep you on point. That whole thing. Uh, that's why these calls are so awesome, because they not only help you out personally, but and directly with what you're experiencing. But for those of you that jump on live and ask questions or ask them in the comments, right? But it also helps you understand that you did your job and did it well as a boss man, not just as an employee for yourself. Because technically, even though you own the business, you are still an employee of that business, because the business is its own entity. Even legally here in the U.S., that's how it's described, as an entity. When you own a business, you are very much still an employee of that business. Um, so yeah, you've got to set hours for yourself. You've got to set company policy for yourself. The types of clients you're going to take, the types of calls you're going to deliver, the types of services you're going to offer. Ultimately, it gets exhaustive, but there's a ton of stuff that needs to be listed out like that or set in your mind. Um, I'm not going to take anybody with less than 5 trucks, or I'm not going to take anybody that doesn't fucking work weekends. Like, what kind of a tow truck company doesn't work on weekends, right? What kind of a tow truck company doesn't have at least one rollback, or is open to at least the idea of buying a rollback within the next 6 months so that they can take all the rollback calls or fix the rollback that is broken down and has been broken down for 3 months or whatever the scenario is. That kind of thing, right? You've got to
Are you
have you
referring
got to have
to
the. I'm sorry.
are you referring to a rollback as equivalent as being a flatbed?
Yeah, a flatbed rollback, same thing. Yeah, yeah, we call them rollback. See, that's the thing. Like, you jump on the phone with some tow truck guys and you start saying flatbed. I mean, yeah, it makes sense, and yeah, they say that sometimes, but most of the guys I know and have talked to over the years, it's rollback, dude, rollback, because it rolls back. It's a flat bed, but it rolls back, you know. Um, you'll find some guys that say flatbed, right? But they're much more old school. Uh, most of the towing guys say rollback, 100%.
Strange, I haven't seen that word a rollback in all my keyword research. I've only seen flatbed.
Interesting. Interesting. Yeah. I can tell you right now, when I had to have my car, the car I'm building, I had to have it moved, part of it anyway, to storage. The body, put the body in storage, the fiberglass part. I called up a rollback and typed in. I'm pretty damn sure typed in rollback because it's the first thing I say. Um, much like people make fun of me, but I don't know why. It's just, I guess out here in Vegas, they don't hear that kind of shit. Uh, when you go to the grocery store and you pull out the thing, what do they call it? The thing on wheels? What do you call it?
A trolley
A trolley. You guys call it a trolley. What do they call it over here?
or a cart.
A cart, right? Well, guess what I call it? A
No
buggy.
idea. A buggy,
Yeah, a buggy. You know why it's called a buggy?
4 wheels.
Well, what else is a buggy? What else is a
Uh,
buggy used for to describe as a buggy?
uh, Moving babies around.
Yeah, the little baby carriers, right? And they call them baby buggies, right? Well,
So the,
what do our grocery carts happen to have at the front of it? Every one of them, still to this day,
they have an area to put small children to sit.
with the little legs and everything, right? The little seat pad, whatever. It's not a pad, it's plastic, but
Nothing really
yeah,
fancy. One.
and
Yeah.
it's a fucking buggy, right? And that's how it is in the South. Not for everybody, but for the people that I know and grew up with and everything around town, it's a buggy. And out here in Vegas, though, they look at me like I grew three heads. It's so funny because I say,
Yeah.
"Yeah, I'm gonna get the buggy," and they're like, "What? You're gonna get the what?" I'm like, "The buggy," and they're like, "No, this is a grocery cart." And I'm like, "Okay, first off, you can take your condescension and go fuck yourself. You knew what I meant, and if you didn't know what I meant, what else could I possibly have fucking meant? Because I was headed right towards the grocery cart, excuse me. And I pull it out and I say, "Do you see this? What is this? This is a place for a child to sit its ass and put its legs through." That's correct. And what's that by definition? That's right. It's on wheels. It's called a fucking buggy. I'm sorry that you did
Right.
not know that or did not understand that, and that I understand that you could also call it a grocery cart, but you did not know conversely, you did not know that it could be called a buggy as well. Uh, Best of luck in the rest of your life and judgmental uh, things going on. I've had conversations that went like that. It was not fun over something as simple as I'm saying I got a buggy over here, um, or I'm going to go get the buggy, and it's so weird that people can be judgmental over something so simple, but I'm not going to put up with it, and neither should you, by the way. Trolley, that's an um, interesting way to say it. I've pushed carts over there or trolleys over there, and I've never um, come across anything where I was trying to explain what I was doing. So I haven't run into that, which makes sense because I don't live there and I only visited, but at the same time. Um, the same would apply for rollback and flatbed, right? Absolutely. I would definitely look at that. Um, and one thing you'll find about the market, like I said, they like things simple. They have a good sense of humor. Because I'll tell you something, you cannot be a tow truck operator or even business owner of a tow truck company and not have some of the craziest fucking stories around. If you need a good time, grab a six pack and a owner of a of a tow truck operation that's been in business for at least 5 years, and you're going to have an entire night full of just fireside chat stories that would just blow your hair back. Some of the craziest shit they've ever encountered, because they deal with pullovers from the cops, obviously. Uh, uh, they deal with towing scenarios where people come running out crazy as hell, repos, um, all kinds of just crazy shit that just happens that you wouldn't believe, right? That you just wouldn't believe and may not still believe. But
So,
that's the good news for you. You got guys that have a sense of humor, that love their job or enjoy their job enough to keep doing it. Um, they like things simple. They're down to earth. They're salt of the earth people in most cases, almost every case. They're good hearted people. So you're gonna get along with them well if you keep those things in mind um, as well. Okay.
okay.
And again, that's vertical specific, right, for Julian. But for everybody else listening in, you can kind of get an idea when you're ready to pick a vertical and you've picked one, or if you've already picked one, I can definitely clue you in on some things like that. But Julian's kind of in a place where I think he needs to hear that and know that about his vertical. So, um, okay, so we've committed to what you've got left to do, what you need to do without the high pressure. I know that you're going to be able to deliver. You're not going to worry about what anybody else has got going on, not looking left, not looking right. You and me, we can do this. I know it. Um, you've just got a couple of small things to nail down, and then you're prospecting, man. I mean, hell, you're even set up with Dollar Central. You're going to have a hell of a time in a good way. I'm assuming you've practiced the sales script, yeah?
I practiced it with just one person, and no matter
Okay.
what she said, I was able to close her. But then it was a friend of mine, so I used all the
Well, any
psychology.
resistance is better than none, right? That's kind of
Even
like
five.
saying, that's like you saying, hey, man, I only have been lifting weights, but it's only been a 20-pound weight. And it's kind of like, well, yeah, dude, but it's 20 pounds. There's some resistance there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah,
So you're not horribly ill prepared, right? If
no,
anything,
I feel confident that if somebody calls me, I can let
right.
them know that these calls need to go somewhere. I even wrote emails which, um, when I wrote it and I sent it to the person to review it,
Yeah.
uh, she thought it was convincing, and I asked her what she would do, and she would say she probably would call. And she said, especially because I see that you are carbon copying three other companies. And in the message, it said, the first one that calls me will get these calls exclusively sent to them. So I put that urgency in it, which you said was a tactic that you wouldn't employ. Um, I thought it was psychologically good to know that, yeah, I'm saying I'm going to send it to the, uh, they need to go somewhere. But
Right.
I'm also showing you that, I could
I follow what
put
you're
the,
saying.
I could put the name of the
It
business
builds on
owner.
the urgency. I get what you're
Yeah,
saying.
just on the urgency, and I could have put hi John or hi Jane or whoever, but I just put hi, and you've been selected because of your great reputation and so on and so forth. And but I have this need. Can you help me? The first company that can help me and responds back can get these delivered to them exclusively. Time is of the essence. You gotta move because these are gonna go.
Well,
Um,
my thing is once you've shot your shot, you've shot your shot, right? With all of those companies all in one email as opposed to individually with the
yeah,
same kind of urgency. And where
what I,
you,
from what I've heard from Dialer Central is that, once you call a number, it doesn't allow you to call back for 30 days. So you've really shot your shot there too, as in you left the message, either they answered and they heard and they pressed one or three to call you back, or they didn't answer and they heard a voicemail. The dialer doesn't allow you to call them a second time.
yeah, it
So
does. You have to reload the list. You have to
yes,
reload the list. I
after
promise you, you need clarification on that. Reload the list. 100%.
uh, yeah, Sherry said that you could, but she said don't call them more than once every 30 days or once every 60 days or
I
something
wouldn't
like
say
that.
30 days or 60 days. Do the list every 2 weeks at the most, but you should be breaking that up with emails and follow-ups anyway, right? If you're doing 2-hour sessions, even 3 days a week, you're not going to burn through that list within a month anyway.
Uh-huh.
So
I
I
understand.
wouldn't, plus emails on top of that, plus follow-ups on top of that. I don't see that happening anyway, but you don't have to wait every 30 days now. I've seen people blow through lists once a week. Not that I would recommend that either. But again, after a couple weeks, they're not going to remember. Absolutely not. Um, and you will pick up new business from it. But break it up. Why not break it
I'd
up?
probably do it. I'd probably do a hand call, as opposed to a voicemail thing where it's a different message. They hear a different person's voice as opposed to what's in
All
the
I know
email.
is I wouldn't do the emails that way. I would just stick to what I've taught you. It's going to be effective. You're going to get responses. You're not going to burn anybody based on, well, that's fucking rude, or well, if he's going to strong arm me like that, not that's a bad sign, right? Uh, and trust me, people oversimplify. People, as much as you tend to overthink, they're going to tend to oversimplify that message and be like, well, that's fucking extortion, or that's blackmail. I'm not going to even respond to that, or that's rude. And I'm telling you, that's the first impression it gives. I understand the leverage you think it has. And in some cases, that's true. But in today's world with business owners, they're a little bit more savvy than that. That might have been something that worked extremely well 5, 10 years ago, even. But today, not so much. Not so much. It's much more of a you have to run out of the car with your hand on your neck that's bleeding out into the emergency room and say, "Do you have a doctor that's able to stitch me up right now?" And if they say yes, you run back to the doctor and maintain the urgency. If they say no, you're running back to the car to drive to the next hospital down the road, right? Because you need to get stitched up. You can't wait. You might as well have gone ahead and found another hospital, right? Um,
Mhm.
to stitch you up that has a doctor that can stitch you up. So anyway, um,
Okay.
you're in the right place. Your headspace is good based on what I'm hearing now. Um, I'm excited. I'm excited to see what you produce, man. I can't wait.
Um, I can hardly wait to really.
That's good, man. Your journey has been something else. I really mean that, and in a good way. Like man, when you start producing, it's really going to be something. Not that everybody else's journey sucks or anything either. I'm just saying I've taken note. I mean, you've engaged a lot too. That I would say that to your credit. If there's one thing that I would uh, commend you on the most, I think, or say was most responsible for your success as inevitable success that you're going to see um, in this model, it would be the fact that you stick it. You do stick it. I mean, yes, you may overthink at times, but I tell you, you can work with that. You can learn to work with that, uh, and put yourself in a position where a lot of your the way you think is going to apply actually later on. Believe it or not, um, as long as it doesn't interfere with the money making activities. I think that would be the biggest thing. Um, if at any time your thinking impairs your money making activities or your money making time or your staff's money making time, you're going to make sure that in the future that it doesn't, right? There's no if on that one. And everything else, though, is going to be open to whatever your mind can think of. And as a thinker, um, you're going to find a lot of cool stuff, right? So I'm excited. I can't wait to see again what you produce and as you not complete the journey, but as you really begin the journey, right? They're still in the very beginning stages, but man, here you are, and yeah, it's going to be fun. There's no doubt.
Well, I'm full of optimism too, Willie.
It's not just optimism. I mean, that's the funny thing. I'm not a negative son of a bitch, but I'll tell you something. I would be considered more of a realist than an optimist. I love nothing more than to bet on a sure thing, right? Um, And when I've got a sure thing, I know it. That's one thing. If I were to bet money on whether or not you succeed, my money's on you succeed because of where you're at, the fact that you've stuck it, you engage, you ask the questions, you get the help, even if some of the things are not necessarily on the money making activities yet, you're headed that way, dude. And you're open to it and you're committed to it on top of it. So there's no way you don't succeed. My money's on you. My money's on you to win. Um, and any smart betting man would put their money on you to win. Um, Everybody else may not see that what I see though. That's the thing. And I also know the model well enough to and also know where you're at and how close you actually are to your goals and what you want to see out of this thing initially. It's not only possible, it's extremely likely. It's highly likely that you will hit those goals, not necessarily within the time frame, but that you will hit them, that you will hit them at some point. Uh, and so that's
Yeah.
why I say, I'm excited because it's not optimism as much as it is like, I've made my bet. I've placed my bet, and
Well,
now
I
I'm just
may
waiting for the race to finish so I can cash in.
okay. I may not win this competition with the most clients, but I know that over time I will get that $1 million agency that you told
That's
us
all I
about.
care about, dude. Yeah, that's all you should care about too. Not that December Dash is unimportant or anything. Obviously, it's a great excuse for us to all come together and push hard, push each other hard, and I want you to for sure. Don't necessarily put yourself under such high pressure that you fold like a cheap suit, right?
No,
But
I'm not.
but
I really want to. Uh, I want to get that mentorship
Okay.
founders founders prize. That's what I'm looking to do.
Well, I mean,
Um,
this contest, now that I've seen a lot of positive response from that, right? Now that you mentioned that, there's no reason why I wouldn't offer that in the future for a contest. I don't think it's ever going to be a founding mentorship, a founding member mentorship license or um, ticket or whatever you want to call it is not going to be something I ever sell ever. So if anything, I'm only going to give it away to as a reward to certain things, obviously activities. So um, it'll be available in the future, I'm sure, but never for sale, right? Mentorship access is going to be for sale for sure, but not as a founding member. And founding members, what's the difference? Well, founding members got in for a lifetime price. They never have to pay jack shit again for anything, any of the updates, any of the add-ons that I'm talking about for ring ads, any of the training. There will be events that they're privy to that nobody else has access to. A ton of cool stuff, right? That they're going to get that, um, but just because they were there and they were in first. But so for me to award that, it's kind of like we have the highest military honors here is considered the Medal of Honor, right? Um,
mhm.
and it's awarded. I don't know if anybody else knows that outside of the states, but it's awarded to those who show what's the wording on that? To for men who show bravery and great face and of their at their own risk and danger, right? Like basically they put their lives down, not necessarily losing their lives, but put their lives in harm's way to rescue others that were wounded and in harm's way and were certain to die in enemy hands. Um, and that's what the Medal of Honor is awarded for. A lot of the medals of honor previous to the war in Afghanistan were awarded posthumously from World War II to then. So like a lot of the awards, a lot of the medals from the Vietnam era, for example, were awarded posthumously. In other words, you had to die to win one in most cases for many decades. Now there's some people that are living that have won them and still living alive to tell the tale in several cases. But it's one of those things where, man, the people that get awarded the Medal of Honor, they have, I don't know if you know this or not, but there's a list, like a fucking list of just benefits and things that they get access to that nobody else does. Like nobody. Uh, Besides the respect that commands the room, right? And attention that commands the room. Forget that for a second. That's in itself just sheer awesome, right? Um, you wear that and you've got people of all military of all ranks saluting you, right? You can wear that as a pin on a suit. You can get priority air travel. God, there's so much shit. You get certain benefits for life, including pay benefits for life. That's an increase, if I'm not mistaken. You get so much, not that everybody should go and want to get a Medal of Honor, but my point is when you're awarded that. So the way I look at the mentorship, this should give you some kind of perspective because I have that kind of training in my background, right? When I look at things like the highest level of a award to be awarded or medal to be awarded, if you will, to me, it's the mentorship and founding member of the mentorship. So there's the mentorship, which is that's extremely high up. It's like Silver Star. It's up there. It's like the next one down. But the founding member, that's very much a um, reserved for the few, at least awarded wise, um,
Mhm.
for the people who have earned it. And the people who earned it initially earned it because they were there at the beginning. Founding member kind of makes sense. Um,
Yeah.
for it to be awarded is going to be um, under a very special set of circumstances, and I've given examples of that with the contest, the prizes, as you know. But it's not going to be the only time. That wouldn't be fair. I don't think it would be. Um, I'm not saying I'm just going to offer it up every time or every time we do a contest, but I'm also going to make sure that people have a shot at it from time to time. Absolutely, because why not? That's like, hey man, there's going to be a ton of wars for you to go out and earn your medals. Not that that's the reason you go to war, but I'm just saying, for us to be in the business we're in, I'm so grateful because I get to see you guys prove yourselves to yourself, not to me, you know, um, but to yourself over and over and over and over again. And there's nothing more than I would love to reward each and every single one of you um, appropriately for that those kinds of behaviors. Because to me, when you do something, think about this. What does it take? What does it take, Julian, to get one of those licenses that you just mentioned, the founding members? What does it take? Do you
Um,
remember?
at least 1,000 points,
Right.
um, and to be number one
And to be
or
number one. That's exactly right. So that's not necessarily going to be the easiest thing, right? You're talking like 10 clients uh, at least, and you're also talking about beating out whoever else is up for it, right?
well, art has a good head start. So
Art has a good head start. That's correct. Is that the only way to win it though? The founding member license?
I thought so. I thought it had
Nope.
to be awarded once to the. Oh, you have to have. I'm not sure if it was most most improved or something. I'm not sure if that was one too,
Best new
but
performance is for U.S. based.
yeah,
Commode is for non-U.S. based, right? And the Lego Award, remember that one? Lego Man Award,
that was the person who did everything by the book.
and it also includes a license to the founding members for the mentorship. Yeah, as a founding member to the mentorship. If you go back and look at the slides, you'll see it plain as day. And there's a reason why that one's awarded for that award as well. And I may not give that award out. It's solely by my judgment. And so if I don't feel anybody's measured up to that or come even close to it, I'm not even gonna pursue it. Right now, if somebody says, "Hey, I did that, and here's proof of it," that's something I'll look at. Right, but it's that serious. And I feel like someone who's gone that to those met to that to uh, to that length to do what needs to be done as it needs to be done, as I've explained, is going to definitely pull down the Lego Man Award, and that's not something to be taken lightly because everybody I've ever seen that has done something like that or the equivalent of what that award would mean um, has produced uh, six figures within 90 days. And I mean, if that's not a Medal of Honor winner, right? If that's not a founding member mentorship level winner, I don't know what is, right? Um, Best new performance, and obviously Komodo Award being the same thing, just one for U.S. based and one for non-U.S. based people, is also super valuable. And if you notice, 10 clients, if you've got 10 clients, you've got a business, my friend. Even if it's only a one-man band, you do have an agency. There's no doubt about it. And what that means for you and where you take that and what you do with it from that point, uh, that's well earned. Within a month, you build a business completely from scratch. You can do that within a month. That's well earned. That is definitely a Medal of Honor kind of shit. 100%. You fought hard for yourself, for your country, for your family, ultimately, um, and to make a difference in your life and their life and all your clients' lives as well. That's definitely, to me, that's honor worthy, the highest honors that I have, and then some. Trust me, I'll find some other shit to add to the mentorship founding members and also the mentorship at large. I've been adding stuff, but I'm going to keep doing it until it reaches a point where it's so prestigious, right, that it's spoken with a whisper and reverence, like that's kind of I joke about it, but at the same time, it very much needs to be that for everybody to strive to be great for themselves. If you notice, it's not to please me, right? You're not doing that to please me, Julian. You're doing that to because you know what it means for yourself and the agency and the business and where you're at and what you get access to that furthers the business on top of it. Um, Man, you just don't get much better than that. So I'm with you on that. And if you don't get it, that's fine. You end up with an agency. I'm still here. You can still join the mentorship in the meantime at some point, right? And you'll be able to from profit. I mean, there's a ton of good that comes out of just shooting for it, right? I agree, 100%. Um, and the next time around, right? The next time around that it comes up, you've got a damn good shot at it, right? No doubt, no doubt in my mind. So
No, the next
anyway,
time around is not going to be
I'm
for me.
sorry.
The next time around that it comes up will not be for me.
Well, that's not
Because
necessarily true. I know this time
next,
around.
when
Keep in mind,
the
this
next
is our
time it comes
first.
around,
Yeah,
I will have 50 or 60 or 80 or more clients.
I know. And
Um,
see, that's the thing. The first time around, this is our first December dash officially as ring ads, right? So the reason I did fewer than 5 clients and whatnot is because I knew that the most of our people that would participate in the December dash are at that level or brand new, right? So next year we'll probably have, because the multiple categories thing has been a success by my judgment. I think it's been uh, a great thing to have that. And I want to go further than that. So there will be categories for people that are at 50, 60, 80 clients and so on, not just fewer than 5. So, and they will have shots at Medal of Honor. The difference will be, I say Medal of Honor, you know what I'm saying? The founding member for the mentorship. The difference in activity will be different for sure. Uh, but the actions required of you personally to hit uh, that kind of reward at from that stage on, right, will definitely be nothing short of what would be required of someone to win that kind of an award. Absolutely, it'll be completely justified. But I do want to open that up at some point. That's why I said it's not going to be off the table for you in the future. No matter what level you're at, there's going to be some different categories for sure. But we had to start somewhere. We had to start with several categories, sure. But I'm also not trying to like throw in 2 dozen categories to start with. It's not the fucking Oscars yet. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah,
let's keep it simple, if you notice, and let's have everybody just focus on one thing that applies to them and go for it, right? Um, but that doesn't mean it's ever going to be off the table for you in the future. You'll have shots at it. There's no doubt you'll have shots at it. It's just going to be at that point whether you're ready to rise to the level, rise to the occasion, and you're the kind of guy, man, that I don't see that being a problem. I really don't. Um, we just got to work a little bit on the thinking getting in the way of the money making activities, and then by all means get back to the thinking, but just make sure that the money making activities stay intact. You know what I mean? But that's what I'm here for, man. That's what these calls are all about. So I appreciate you coming on and asking the questions you're asking, because you get the answers. Like I said, I'll always give you the answers, and I know you know that by now, as well as everybody else. But at the same time, those answers all point to a pattern of not getting you to where ultimately you're going to want to be. And I'm the kind of guy that's not afraid to call you out on it uh, as nicely as possible. But at the same time, you have to understand calling somebody out is a confrontational thing, right? A little bit at least, where you're going to have to not necessarily hurt somebody's feelings or smash them into the ground, because I'm not trying to make you feel like that or do that to you. But at the same time, I have to make sure that you understand there's a misalignment from the questions you're asking versus what's required from your business, like to actually be a business. There's requirements, there's demands from your business, not from me, mind you. I just happen to be the messenger. I happen to know the message very well, right? And can tell you that over and over again. And all I'm doing is showing you that your business has demands of you as a business owner. Here's what they are. When you have met those demands or met those expectations of your business, you now have a business. That's a successful business, rather. That's ultimately what it comes down to. And a lot of people are, oh, I don't like what he said or how he said it. And it's like, man, I'm telling you a hell of a lot nicer than the business will tell you. Because I'll tell you right now, Julian, you don't want to be the guy or anybody else out there listening. You don't want to be that guy or that gal that has to have your business tell you. Because if the business has to tell you, it's going to slap you really fucking hard in the dirt. And it's not, I'm laughing not at you. I'm laughing because I've been knocked around. All right. I know what that feels like and it fucking sucks. and you do learn, and you learn fucking quick, but at the same time, why learn lessons that you don't that way that you don't have to learn that way? That many people have come before you and gone before you to learn that. Even after I've told people how many times, right? Um, but all those things come into play. I don't want you to have to learn that way. I'd much rather be the messenger because I'm going to tell you a hell of a lot nicer than your business will tell you. I promise. Um, there's nothing like the feeling of getting fucked over by a client, or because you didn't do the proper qualifying or have the good enough qualifying questions to prevent that, or systems and processes in place, company policies, right, in place to prevent that kind of activity from being encouraged, even, right, on the other side of the client. As an example, there's nothing that's probably worse than a feeling like that, where a client totally takes advantage of you and does so knowingly, and there's nothing you could have done about it because you didn't have those things in place, or manage that properly. And that's just one example of many where the business can slap you around, right, and tell you what, and teach you what you need to learn and tell you what you need to know, versus applying what I teach you, right? That keeps you from a lot of that shit. So like that whole give shit away for free, that's a man, that is an open door, right? That's an wide open door for all the fraudsters and scammers to come in and just totally take advantage of you and your nice um, um, disposition. I don't know. What do you want to say? Your nice guy qualities, nice gal qualities, that kind of thing. Sucks. Don't do that. Don't be that guy. Don't be that gal. Be the one who be the smart and savvy business owner that actually pays attention and listens and applies what they learn from other smart and savvy business owners that have been there, done that. There's a reason why we do prepaid. Have always taught prepaid from the Julian. You've been around me for years now, right? Like you've heard me talk about this all the time.
Uh,
Prepaid, 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 right?
yeah, I believe in prepaid.
Yep.
One thing I want to do to be, you have said you're not in agreement with it,
What's
is
up?
to charge a setup fee,
Mm,
because I would like to be able to give that setup fee to whoever the salesperson is that closes that deal, and say, hey, the setup fee was $99, you get 75 of it. I got to pay tax guy 25 or something like that, but you get 75 for closing that deal, and it goes to them, or part of it goes to the salesperson, and part of it goes to the person who sets up the campaign. Um, I know it's fairly easy to duplicate a campaign, but there's going to be some time involved, and somebody's going to have to do that and look through the keywords and look through and make adjustments. And I like to be able to say, apart from the profit I make, which only comes once the ads run and somebody clicks call, that money isn't really earned. It's deposited, but it's not earned yet. So I'd like to have something paid up front so I can pay staff, so I can make sure it's a healthy, growing business.
I wouldn't be so concerned about that out of the gate. I mean, realistically speaking, you could run a couple dozen clients as a one-man band without ever having to break a sweat past the 1 to 2 hours a day, 5 days a week, and
Mm-hmm.
manage every aspect of the business without having to have staff hired. At that point, though, you would be stretching yourself because you do need to have systems and processes that you at least time to be able to build those so that you can hire and train and replace yourself in different positions. But I'll tell you right now, a couple dozen clients in your vertical with the kind of money you can make, you're going to have every position filled, every staff position filled uh, by then, or be able to at least. You're going to be spending more time getting the systems and processes in place than worrying about whether you can afford them or not. And the other thing is, I do hourly and commission for sales. That's what I recommend. I think I answered this before, but um, just to clarify, the reason I do that is because I don't like setup fees. I don't do setup fees, and the reason I don't is because people are feed to fucking death. They're tired of fees. The second you start doing fees, you're everybody else to them. Even if your calls are the best, even if they're exclusive, even if you have a back office, now all of a sudden it's like, of course they're going to charge me a fucking fee, right? Especially the guys in your vertical. That's the last thing they want to hear. I promise you. And you'll find that out very quick if that's the way you decide to go ultimately. Um, what I will tell you is this. Uh, how I would pay people is going to be, again, keep in mind, you're going to have your first couple dozen of clients by yourself. Okay. Before you even think about hiring position one and two, you should probably have at least a dozen clients. And depending on how quickly you get those clients, in other words, the momentum that you build and the consistency of which you pull in clients, like 3 a week, if you've got, the last 3 weeks and you're pulling in 3 a week pretty consistent, and you're able to build systems and processes as you go, mm, you could probably start projecting out at that point uh, what it would look like revenue wise for you to be able to afford to hire, and not just afford, I mean like comfortably afford to hire your position one and two and so on, based on those rough time frames, right? You can start doing business growth projections. That's what that is. Um, that said, and again, this is different for everybody in every vertical and how fast they move or how slow they move, how many clients they acquire every week on average or per session that they do, on and on and on. How well they do the campaign optimization. For you, again, your vertical is going to be relatively easy, and if you stay engaged on these calls, I'll be able to help you on screen shares, no problem. It's going to be easy peasy, lemon squeezy for you in that vertical. Um, the biggest thing I can tell you is you're going to find at a certain point about 10 to 12 clients in somewhere in there, you're going to find oh man, every time I set up a new client now, not your number one client, but number 10, number 11, number 12, man, out of the gate, they're doing 2 to 1, 3 to 1, which means, and I'm also spending that deposit, or in other words, driving those 10 calls or 20 calls or whatever within X amount of days. So I know that this client's going to need to re-up with, next week, right? And when they do, I'll be able to get an average of how many times people re-up a month, or clients re-up a month, and how much they're actually re-upping amount-wise with, right, on average. And with
Mm-hmm.
that kind of data, business growth projection-wise, we're talking, you're going to be able to extrapolate out not just the growth, but again, the revenue slash profit that comes in, which means you can now comfortably, when it's time to hire position two, not position one, because you don't bonus position one, and you don't bonus campaign managers. You don't do that. You hire campaign managers. You pay them an hourly. And by God, if they underperform and don't do their fucking job, they're fucking fired because you're the fucking boss. That's how you need to think. Okay. No goddamn bonuses for everybody and their brother. That's not how this shit works. Commission and hourly for the sales. They pull in the business. They get the reward, and it's going to be minimal, and it's going to be incentivized. The more clients they get, the more money they get on the commission. Okay, and you're going to incentivize it that way if you choose to follow my training. Um, that said, your sales guys will super perform. Your campaign manager should end up loving his job because most of the optimization, at least for the first vertical, has already been done for them. Their job is to keep it between the lines. Your job is to teach them how to at first keep it between the lines, right? And then teach them the advanced stuff with the second vertical, right? Um,
Yeah.
their job doesn't get hard until fucking 100 clients in, right? Their job is a couple of clicks to duplicate something, change out the hours, locations, and ad copy, right? That's it.
Yeah.
Outside of like negatives here and there, right? They're not going to have that much. They'll have a few, but again, not that much. It's not like they're going to have like 8 hours of work for you. That's not a reward kind of. That's not give me a medal situation. You know what I'm saying? Whereas a sales guy pulling in the business, absolutely. Is it a medal of honor? No, but is it bonus worthy? Absolutely, absolutely. Position one, they're prospecting. They're just pulling in good, if you want to give them a bonus every now and again, hey man, this last month, our sales guys did the
Uh,
best they ever
what,
did, and they said it was because
with,
you,
with prospecting, because if I'm using automated systems to scrape data or buying data,
right?
what prospecting would they be needing to do? Um,
Again, there's dial outs, right, that they can use Prospect Boss where they manually dial out and ask the questions do you need more business right now? Right? They start out with the intro. Do you need more business right now? If they say yes, they say, great, I've got a lead specialist or a phone call specialist. Uh, is this a good number to call you back at? They've got calls coming in. They got to go somewhere right now. Cool. And then they forward over the information to the closer. Closer calls them up right away, closes the deal. That's it. But my point is, the better at their job, the position one, they spend half their day scraping and pulling data and running ringless voicemail, voice broadcasting, and email campaigns for the closer to respond to, right? Because the closer responds to all of those. So half the day is spent getting the data, running ringless voicemail, voice broadcasting, and email, because that's the foundation, remember?
Right.
Then they spend the other half of the day dialing out manually with something like Prospect Boss. That's a 4-line predictive dialer, right? And they
Mhm.
can reach hundreds of people in a 4-hour run every day, 5 days a week. They can reach hundreds of people a day uh, and speak to probably 150 to 200 roughly a day.
Mhm.
And out of that, they're going to find people that say yes. And out of the yeses, they're going to forward it over to the sales guy. So my point is, back to what I was trying to say, you're going to find where you don't bonus them for every deal or anything that comes through, but it's going to be like, hey, sales guy, I notice your numbers again. Great reason to track. Uh, Everything is. I notice your client ratio, right? Like you're pulling in 1.3 clients a day. It's no longer one a day. It's 1.3, which means
Mhm.
every 3 days you're pulling in an extra client. What would you, if you had to attribute it to one thing, what would you attribute it to? And if they say something like, "Oh, well, the fucking leads are awesome from uh, from your position one," well, I think a $50, whatever, or $100 whatever is in order for your position one, wouldn't you?
Yes, yeah, yeah.
Okay. And if it's
Because I,
again, if
I thought
it's
that that setup fee would allow me to have the ability to. I know you don't like to have
get away from
it.
setup fee. Jesus Christ. The last guys I ever heard talk about setup fees was, and here's the thing. Do Let me ask you this. Do you want to be like everybody else, agency wise?
I
It's
want to
okay
be
if you
able
do. I
to.
just need to know
I
right
want to
here, right
be able
now.
to grow a
I
healthy
just,
business
Julian,
that
Julian, I don't, you're rationalizing. You're fucking making excuses. Do you want to be like everyone else or not? It's okay if you do. There's no wrong answer, really. I just need to know, like today, right now, because what you're describing with setup fees and the fact that you just won't let go of it, Jesus. By the way, if you notice, there's a pattern that emerges here between the two of us, right? Typically, it happens whenever you get something dead set in your mind that's dead set against what I teach. And you've got a stubborn streak, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but I'm telling you right now, there's many, many reasons as to why a setup fee is not only detrimental, right, but can be downright just business killing. I don't know if you see that or not, and I really, at this point, I just don't care if you see it because you need to know that that's the facts. Them's the facts. Um, do you? And so my question is very simple: do you want to be like every other agency out there or not? Yes or no?
I want to be an
It's a
outstanding
yes or
agency.
no. It's not a. It's
I
not
want
a
to be an outstanding
yes or
agency.
no. Give me a yes or no,
No,
please.
no, no, because I'm gonna add a whole lot of systems in place that's going to distinguish my agency from many others
Again, you're
in the same.
rationalizing, right? This is what's going to make me different. I'm going to run the setup fee because I'm going to be different this way and that way, right? And the thing is if you really were going to be different, you would have clearly laid out exactly what those systems and processes would be that would be so different. You would have already told me in minute detail what those are. And I'm not saying that you couldn't come up with some off the cuff right now really quickly, but you and I both know you don't have those because you haven't created them yet. And what that means is you aren't unique. You are like everybody else if you go setup fee. I'm trying to learn you a few things here, right? I'm trying to teach you some things here. It's gosh, the best example I have is somebody that would talk about charging setup fees had great difficulty selling anything, yet would teach people how to sell. I know that sounds crazy, but there's plenty of that out there. I'm sure you know that in the world. And setup fees in our business and with how we position ourselves with everything else just don't make sense. You're shooting yourself in the foot if you go that way. I'm saying that 100%. Um, I'm not saying you can't make it. I'm saying you're shooting yourself in the foot, which, I mean, anytime you shoot yourself in the foot, I don't know if you've done that or not. I know I haven't, but man, I've seen people that do, and they don't walk very well after that. Um, can they make it somewhere if they need to? Yeah. But they're in immense pain and they struggle the whole way. And they might even end up with a limp the rest of their life. So please don't shoot yourself in the foot. I mean, to be the same thing about gun safety I'd explain to you.
I'll let go of it for now. I'll let go of it for now. I'll grow the business according to your suggestion, and when there's enough cash flow, I will test and see
Let me
what the number.
let me give you some mm, not advice, but um, let me give you an exception to that, right? Because what we do is very transactional, right? However,
Mm-hmm.
when you get to a regional, really a national level,
Mm-hmm.
then you can cash in on your setup fee. Because all those corporate companies, guess what they're used to?
That's set up for.
They're used
Mm.
to your fucking setup fee, and it's going
And
to
they're
be
used to having,
exorbitant.
they're used to paying a whole lot more.
Yeah, exactly. It's going to be an exorbitant fee, like I said. That doesn't mean you
But
have to go and rake them over the coals either. It's just not something.
because
It's just not good business. It's just not good business, Julian. I just don't fucking do it. But if you must insist on doing it, then do it to the right fucking people.
okay, okay.
Christ.
Would you say that a company that has in this vertical that has trucks in 2 or 3 states is somebody
That's
that would
regional.
pay?
That's regional.
That's
Yeah. And that would be a client that you could probably not even probably most likely work a deal like that, and it would require the same mindset and concept of test with a couple locations and then do a rollout, but there is a setup fee 100%
okay.
because in order to roll out to all those clients it's going to take a fuckload of xyz work, blah blah blah, this and that. And so you explain it as that, and the setup fee is no big deal to them because they also know at that point from the test that there are 3 or 4 or 5 locations that you ran the test with, right? They're doing fucking gangbusters. Well, then it's
And
worth the
they
other
would be
30 Okay, hold on, I'm still
they
talking.
would be
It's
putting
still
a much
worth the other
larger
30 locations, right?
they'll
Still
be
worth the
putting a
other.
much larger deposit
Julian,
too.
I'm still talking, please, for the love
Right.
of
All right.
God.
Go ahead.
Okay. It's still worth it for the other 30 locations, right? Still worth it for the
Mm-hmm.
other 30 locations or whatever they have to roll it out to on the test fee because they or the setup fee because they understand the setup fee is a one-time thing, no big deal to them because they also expectations wise expect to do business with you far past whatever that setup fee is worth to you initially and cost them initially, right? Now, please continue. What, what were you
Uh,
asking about?
and I think and they would be putting in a much larger deposit. I mean, they would be buying 100 or
Correct.
200
Yeah, their
or
deposit
300.
would be much bigger. Their re-ups would be much bigger. That's correct. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
you're vertical. Someone that's got the capability or in major metro areas that's running like 30, 40, 50 trucks can easily come up off of like 5, 10 grand
Mm-hmm.
per re-up, no problem. In fact, they would prefer it, especially if they get a little bit of a discount.
Okay.
Hint,
Okay.
hint, wink, wink. Right? All right.
Yeah.
Does that help you at least? Please
Yes,
don't go
everything.
charging setup fees to people that just fucking hate it, and it doesn't make sense in our business model anyway. Wait till you get to corporate level before you even consider it, and even then, please tell me you'll reconsider it even at that level because again, it's just not, to me, it's just not good business, right? We're not a cell phone company. We don't actually have work that's required to set up in terms of, look, man, I've got things so dialed in that on development that are coming. Here's what I want you to imagine. Do you use ClickFunnels?
I do. Yes.
Okay,
Uh,
so you've got your agency site set up on it and all that.
yes, I do.
Okay, so imagine this. a client pays you money, right? Doesn't matter what size, they pay you money. Imagine the information is immediately sent to Ring Ads for you. Company is created inside of Ring Ads for you. You go in and modify the settings, sure, if you need to, right? Add
Mm-hmm.
information if you need to, that kind of thing. But the company itself is created inside of Ring Ads, so there's like 5 minutes of work already done. You don't have to do shit. Uh, then you go in, and if you have it already pre-assigned, you'll have the option to do this, by the way. A campaign template. So, for example, your vertical you're in right now, you can have that templated out with all the like prefabbed messages and settings for basic a basic client. What most of your clients, in other words, in that vertical are going to want and have, including the rate and all that stuff. The only thing that's missing is a phone number assigned to it, but a copy of that template campaign is assigned to that client, right?
Mm-hmm.
With that, you select the phone number, tweak the settings, another 5 minutes. Well, the first 5 minutes, that's your first 5 minutes, you're done. Inside of Ring Ads, you are now done, with exception of clicking one button, which then sends all of that information to create your Google campaign, right? To create your call ads campaign. Then you go over to your website because you got to make that page too before you do that button, before you hit that button.
Mm-hmm.
And you instead of having to make a page, imagine clicking a button and it pulls in the phone number from that campaign in a drop down. You select it, it pulls the phone number automatically, makes the page for you automatically with the push of a button. So 5 minutes on the website max, and that's if you suck moving around WordPress. You know what I'm saying? Like if you
Mm-hmm.
suck at life, 10 minutes has gone by, but your client has set up with the exception of what your campaign manager or you would be doing, which is hours, locations, and ad copy. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. Now, tell me why that requires a fucking setup fee. It doesn't, and it shouldn't. And my point is, my goal is to get you to the point where right now, when you get good at this, you should take no more than half an hour with setup of a client anyway, right? Maybe starting out it's an hour or 2 hours, but you can get that down to 30 minutes, no problem. No problem. You do not have to be even close to pro level to get to 30 minutes. I can do them in 15, 20 minutes, no fucking problem. No questions asked. As long as I got good internet speed and everything's on the up and up, there's no issues, right? In doing that. But I want it down to where you guys can all of you can do it within 5 minutes, 10 minutes. I mean, could you imagine there's no bottleneck anymore, right? You could have 10 sales staff pulling in two clients a day and maybe one dedicated person to make sure that all that's managed properly and pull in 20 clients and onboard 20 clients. No fucking problem. I'm just saying. Like that's a hell of a setup. Now, you don't need to charge setup fees because not all of it, but a lot of that's going to be automated for you to where there's very minimal um, effort required because of the software and the automation that's coming and that you actually already have access to, believe it or not, with copies of templates and whatnot. Uh, there's more coming that it just is not going to, even for a client that's national with 50 locations and you set up campaigns for 50 of those locations individually, it's just not going to be worth it for even those guys to charge a setup fee compared to the money you could make if you were able to start up today without any reservations whatsoever from them on a setup fee to drive phone calls today. Like the cost of what it's costing you today versus what it could make you, or cost of what it could make you tomorrow if they decide to say yes versus what them saying yes today because it's so fucking no brainer, so transactional. Yeah, let's do it. And the test was good, so let's roll it out. Makes you so much more money, even at a discounted rate per because it's a national deal, man. I'm not saying you got to just roll over or bend over at the same time. No, but you don't have to do the same to them. And to me, a setup fee is very much um, a bend over and take it kind of thing to do to another company. If it's not really something that you know, like I'll give you an example. Cable companies and power companies and gas companies, a lot of them charge connection fees, right? Which would be the equivalent of a setup fee. Those make
Hmm.
sense though, because they actually have to come out to the fucking house and connect something, like physically connect. You know what I'm saying? Like, and they have to drive their asses out there and do, that whole thing.
Yeah,
We
and they
don't have
outsource
that,
they outsource that to a company
Yeah,
that
so
actually does
third party
it.
contractors. Yeah, in a lot of cases, but not all of them. Energy companies don't outsource like that. They don't do that. But cable companies do. You're
Yeah,
absolutely right. But at the same time, it doesn't fucking matter. Somebody had to drag their ass out to your house, right?
true.
And hook shit
Yes.
up and put all the boxes in the right place and give you the remotes and blah 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 blah. All that shit. And that's why they charge you setup fees, right? And by the way, those setup fees, are they large or are they small?
They're small, relatively.
Why are they small?
They don't want to make it to be an obstacle for you to say yes to do this.
Exactly. And they also do what with the setup fee? Do they demand cash on delivery, or do they in person, or what? How do they charge it to you?
Uh, well, when I had my cable done, it was
How did you pay it? How did you end up paying it for the
it was
setup fee?
paid in advance. It was
It
paid
was
in
paid
advance.
what?
In advance.
Really? Wow, we don't do that here in the States. You know how it's billed here in the States?
So I am in the States.
Oh, well, normally you don't pay that in advance. I don't know what kind of fucking cable company you're running with. Man,
Uh,
they include it in the bill, dude. It's in your first
um,
bill.
okay. Well,
Yeah. You didn't know that?
maybe I may have
Hell, even
misspoken.
even the even the security deposit for like electrical, like if you do electrical power, and there's a security deposit, maybe you didn't put it on auto pay or e-check or whatever, they'll charge you a security deposit, and if that's ever done, the security deposit in most cases comes out of your first bill. It doesn't get charged to you that day or in advance, never. And never have I ever, in all the states I've ever lived in, and all the cable companies I've ever worked with or done business with, have I ever been charged in advance. Like, yeah, they said it's going to be $75 fee for us to come out to the house and hook shit up, but it's included in your bill. Like you pay it
Yes,
when your
yes,
first bill comes due. Does that make sense?
right. Yes.
Similar concept for your setup fees. Make it the absolute like justified minimum of what it should be, if any at all,
I was
and
thinking 50. I was thinking
make it in
49 would
and
be
in
something
well,
negligible, but
say again.
I was thinking 49.99, $49
No, again,
would be.
we're not talking local clients. You're talking national.
Oh,
That doesn't make
national would be
yeah.
would be much. Yeah, it would be.
Yeah, that doesn't. So those numbers don't make sense on that. But
Right.
the um, the other thing is to include it in the initial deposit. Make sure that they include that amount in the initial deposit. And that's not going to be something you run them through the website on. That's going to be something that you probably get them to send you a wire or a check on, something like that. Whatever they need to be able to track that, that's fine. And you'll deposit it in the account when you get it.
Yeah.
Yep, yep, yep. All right, cool. Well, good talk. It's been a minute, but it was a good conversation. Anything else that I can help you with? Anything that you need help with that I can help you with?
No, William, I just need to pull my finger take my hands from under my legs and to start making those research calls. And right now, as we've been speaking, I have been um, scraping data to put into the dialer.
Sweet.
I'll,
That's the right
I'll,
attitude, my man. I
I'll,
love it.
I'll be
I
putting those
love it.
up, and then I'll be handpicking a few of those companies in the spreadsheets to call manually that I think would be representative. Either they are companies that I've seen their names over and over in different cities, and some that I just see that have a nice website, and uh, just find out what they're looking for.
Sounds like a plan.
Okay, all
I
right.
like it. That's
I
activity.
know
That's the
that
right activity.
they get their calls from four different sources. You know, there's police recovery, as you pointed out.
Yep.
There is, which could be a breakdown, not breakdown, an accident by the roadside, or it could be
Yep.
a um, an impound. For example,
Yeah.
some car was stopped and they pulled out the
Illegal
car.
parking. Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's that.
DUIs.
Then,
Yeah. I got it.
then, then there are the clubs that
Yes.
are rotation with. Then there are contracts with municipals and whether it's the
Right.
bus company and the coach company or something like that. And then
Apartments
there is
even. Yeah.
yeah, apartments. And then there are the retail, which is I've broken down or somebody's blocked my driveway. I need their car removed. And then there's the repo, which is, with this finance company says, go round and pick up this car. And they take around a wrecker and they tow it away.
Yeah. Repo is not something you're driving phone calls for. The others that you mentioned,
All of those, I'm not doing the municipal.
retail's not
That
a bad one, but again, those are going to come up with people needing a tow. Same concept. Just
Mhm.
because they're in front of their business really makes a little difference in how they choose to target their search, if you will. But municipal, yeah, any kind of contract that they have with the city or um, with the county or with uh, the police departments, those are all, yeah, forget about them.
Yeah, yeah,
You're not targeting those.
right. I'm only targeting the person at the side of the road, or who finds that the battery is dead, or that is in immediate distress that needs
Car
a tow.
overheated, tires
Yeah,
flat, fan belt
um,
came off,
yeah,
uh,
all of those things.
shit died. Alternator, sometimes it's not the battery, sometimes it's the alternator. There's so
Mhm.
many things that can go wrong with a vehicle, actually. Um, but yeah, that's who you're looking for mostly, are those people, 100%.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's where they can charge full retail. So that's what the fourth leg of their table, of their four leg table that I can help them with.
Okay.
That's it. That's it.
Okay.
That's what I'm talking to them about.
Um, I mean, I wouldn't necessarily come out of the gate talking about stuff you're not going to be able to deliver. I'd talk about the stuff that you can deliver, you know?
Hmm. Yes, that's that's
Okay.
that's really
That's
it.
what you
Uh,
referred to. Okay.
what I mean is all the
That
other
works.
parts is not part of my market research. It's
Right.
not part of, well,
Focus,
how.
I will give you a hint. Focus on your calls, on your market research calls, more on towing, less on roadside, and kind of mention it as yeah, I know most guys don't do roadside or like to do roadside, but do you offer roadside and do you do it mostly like everybody else to pay the bills? When you say it like that, it's like they understand you that you understand they don't like it, but they do it to pay the fucking bills, keep the lights on. If they get a call and they have nobody else to service, they will service fuel and battery and fan belt and shit like that. But that's not their bread and butter. Their bread and butter is towing somebody to a service station, right? That kind of thing, or towing it home or
Right.
wherever. So, or an auto body shop, right? So yeah, those are when you say it like that, though, you notice the difference. It's night and day versus do you do towing and roadside? That makes it sound like you have no fucking clue how much of a thorn in their side roadside is. Whereas if you ask the same question just in a different way, that shows that not only are you educated because you are, but you're educated in how they do business and what drives them and what they want. They're going to be like, oh, this motherfucker knows exactly what he's talking about. I'm
Hmm.
sorry. And this is when you get the question all the time. I love this question. When you start hearing this, Julian, you'll know you're in the right place. When they start going, I'm sorry, are you a towing company? Because they don't hear shit like that, right? They don't, no telemarketer says stuff like that ever in the history of telemarketers, okay? So when you come off with that, they're going to be like, man, this guy's got his shit together. And that's exactly what you want to hear. They're not going to say that. They're going to say things like, I'm sorry, I'm trying to understand. In other words, they're trying to place you. Maybe they weren't paying attention at first, but now they really are because they're trying to place you with who you are and what you do. And you sound to them like you might be another owner operator of a towing company.
Hmm.
And when you sound like them and they can't distinguish you from them, or sounding like them at least, and they're confused, that's when you know you're on the level, right? That's when you know you're on the level. Obviously, you don't lie to them. I'm just saying when you've got them confused or they've confused themselves because you sound so much like it's almost like camouflage. It's almost like you look like a if it looks like a duck and quacks like a duck and walks like a duck, it's probably a duck, right? However, in this case, you're that crazy. Have you ever seen the cat that barks like a dog? Have you ever seen a video of a cat that barks like a dog?
No, it must be
It's
a TikTok
real.
video.
It's real. It's
Really?
freaky. I see this video. I know there's, yeah, TikTok. There's a bunch of videos of a cat, specifically one cat that I can think of that sits at a window when he thinks no humans around, and he's barking. Well, the cat is barking at a dog like a dog would bark, and you can clearly tell that the cat is making the noise as a dog. And then when the human has the phone recording the cat, it says, "Oh my God!" and the cat freaks and like does that jump and looks at the human and knows that it's gotten busted. And so as it's barking, it's still barking, keep in mind, out the window at the dog. So as it freaks out and it's going roof, roof, and then it goes "Rah, rah, rah," like this half woof, half meow shit, and it goes meow, meow, like, and you're like, really, really, bitch, I just saw you barking at the dog, like pissing the dog off, right? Like, how do you not know that I busted you, right? And of course the cat knew that it got busted, but the point is, looks like a duck, sounds like a duck, walks like a duck, quacks like a duck, does not mean necessarily that it's a duck, and that's a good thing for us because when they look at you and they hear you and they they think, man, is this a duck? You know you've done a good job in terms of market research, like you're on point, and that's good because they're going to give you things that they would never give anybody else because it's kind of like again, they get half a dozen phone calls a day, but here I am telling you all this stuff and I don't understand why I'm telling you all this stuff. It's because you don't sound like everybody else. Again, all comes back to that same concept of don't be like everybody else, please God, be unique, right? And this is definitely one of the ways to do that, and one of the ways to tell that as an indicator that you are on the right track. I don't think you're going to have a problem with that, but again, carefully word some of your questions so that they reveal some of the knowledge that you have gained already. Don't just get lazy with it and say, "Do you do towing and roadside? And what are your hours?" You know what I mean? Like yawn. Hey,
Right,
telemarketer, how are you? You know what I'm saying? How
right.
about I know most of you guys. Does that say I've talked to one person or a lot?
I talk to so many that it's annoying
I
now
forgot how
because
many. Exactly. You got it. Okay. But that's the point. It's just something so simple like that can totally change somebody's mindset of like, fuck, how many people has he talked to? You know what I'm saying? He's a village bicycle. Everybody's had a ride, you know? He's
Mhm.
the village doorknob. Everybody's had a turn. However you want to say that. Insert crazy your mom jokes here, right? I grew up with all that. So again, sophomore humor. But the idea is the same as like, man, how many people has he talked to that okay. So that's instantly triggered in their mind without you having to say anything else or brag or you can be extremely humble or benevolent as an alpha and say things like that and not uh, and get the reaction you want, and also not just the reaction you want, but get them to open up because it's like, man, he clearly, with what he just said after that, he clearly knows this vertical, like, or my business, if you will. And he said he's not here to sell anything. So at some point, they're going to start letting their guard down and trust you. And the good news is, I'm not asking you to shit all over that. The good news is, I'm encouraging you to honor that agreement, which is don't try to sell to them on market research. And I guarantee you, even if even if and when that happens, you will still have people trying to buy from you. 100%. It's almost like they want what they can't have. You haven't told them they can't have it. You've just told them that you're not there to give them that. And all of a sudden, when they realize how knowledgeable you actually are, Julian, they're going to want it. They're going to want it bad. I'm just saying.
Okay,
That's the
all right.
nature of the game. The good news is
Well,
you can always say,
I
"Hey, I'll
will be
come
able
back
to,
to you in
I will,
a few weeks,"
yeah, I will
and
call them back and say, hey,
right.
market research is done. We've got our numbers. We know what we can do, and it
Here's what
happens to
we've
be.
been up to lately, is what you should say. We have a few clients, and things are going well. We're able to do this and that. We'd love to be able to get rolling with you. I've got calls that are coming in. I know you can take care of them. You ready to go? Let's do this. Let's do this. It's so natural. Let's do this. Let's start small. Because again, I'm not trying to charge you thousands of dollars or anything, right? You help me out with the market research on top of it. So let's do each other a favor. Let me show you what we can do for you. Let's start with 10 calls and let's do $20, right? Notice how I paused. I didn't have to pause. I already know it's 200 fucking dollars for a deposit, but you notice it makes it sound like, again, tonal patterns. This is all part of your sales training for the sales script. It makes it sound like I'm searching for a good deal for us to come to the conclusion of. And because it is such a small number, it's easy. It's an easy decision for them, especially if they liked you after the market research calls. But don't put all your faith and hope in getting some of those as clients. Their sole purpose is to provide you with the market research so that you can go forth and close clients. If you happen to get some on the way back, hey, right? Volley for you, right? That good for you. All right. Outside of
Would you
that,
really
don't
start,
stress.
would you really start so small as 10 calls, bearing in mind that the cost of the call is so low? Wouldn't I want to go for 20 or more?
10's a pretty good number for that vertical. $20 to $30 a call, 10 calls. It's a pretty decent deposit, pretty sizable, but at the same time, not too much, not too big. Enough calls for them to definitely tell what your calls are going to be like, quality wise. It's a nice, a decent sized gamble on both sides, if that makes sense.
Okay, all right.
You're going to get them
Because
good deals,
they could
good
possibly,
calls.
in a big metropolitan area, they could go through
They
10
could,
calls
yeah, man,
in
they
a day.
could. And a lot of things could. What's your point?
Oh,
Tell them
it's
that.
just yeah, I was so okay. So we can start small. You can get a taste of how good our quality of calls are and how much business it's going to generate for you. And within no time, you'll be back for more. So let's start small.
Yeah,
Let's start
it
with
would be more
very,
of a warning. It'd be more of a warning. Hey, you're in the Atlanta metro area, and you well know that you get calls more than you can handle, right? Which shouldn't be the case for them if they're growing. You can get more calls in the Atlanta metro area since your service in that area. Um, there's going to be ebb and flow to it, but given the fact that we're starting with 10 calls, this could be over to by tomorrow. Like you and I can be back on the phone talking about the next order, right? And that's okay. I just want to make sure that you and I have time to review the calls because remember, there's call recordings, there's a back office. I'm going to show you all that before we get up and running. But again, I want you to see uh, with me, sit down with me, and take a look at these calls and take a listen to these calls and see what's come in for you that you've made money on before we continue. That way, you're making money. I know you're making money, and we can continue. If you want to make a bigger deposit, by all means, and I even offer discounts at volume. But again, I want to start small, show you what we can do, and then we can have a good talk, a good discussion about what you've been delivered and where we go from here. And they're going to like that because you're not asking for all their money up front. You
it's just
follow?
about establishing a relationship.
Just starting the relationship. My God, how many relationships have started just by going on one date, by just committing to one date, and no expectations of a second or a third. But here they are 6 months later, happy as hell or unhappy as hell, one of the two, right? But still together. That's kind of my point. It's up to you to not just make them happy, but also to create that happy relationship, that client relationship. And again, a lot of that comes down to management of expectations, you know.
Okay, all right, that's fine. I won't be greedy. I'll just let them know it's about getting them started so that they can be in profit very very quickly, and we can then grow from there together.
Well, yeah, that plus you're going to evaluate the calls together. I mean, that would help a
Yeah.
lot,
Okay.
um, especially if they all come in the same day or over the next 2 days, they all come in. That's going to be very powerful for them. They're going to be like, damn, how many calls can you deliver? And you'd be like, how many fucking trucks you got? And if you don't have enough, maybe you should start considering investing and getting some. And by the way, that's that kind of growth that you offer as an opportunity for even guys that have 50 trucks that want to add five more. If there was ever a time to buy a truck for towing, when would it be?
when demand exceeds capacity.
When demand, well, besides that, I'm talking about market wise, economic. When would be a good
Uh,
time to buy a tow truck or a house or fuck anything that costs cash?
when other companies are going out of business and they're liquidating with their assets, and
I mean, yeah, but that's a root. What's the root of that?
when times are hard.
There you go. And what are we currently in?
We're in tough times for a lot of people. A lot of people are in
Yeah,
tough times.
tough. Probably some of the toughest of times. We just people haven't hindsight looked at it in hindsight yet, and it may get worse. So welcome to the perfect time to grow a fucking business. And I'm talking about your clients, not yours too. But I'm saying for your clients to, if you provide them that kind of volume, because I'm telling you right now, when cars break down, and
Yeah,
there's
I'm hoping
nothing.
that there's going to be a lot of snowstorms pretty soon in the north part of the country. I'm hoping that.
Not well. Snowstorms cause cars to get stuck.
Yeah, they get
They don't.
stuck in the
Yeah,
wheels don't
and
turn.
while there are some guys that will, quite a few guys that will go out there in the weather, um, yeah, it's hit or miss on that. But there's still people that get stuck and need help. Speaking of which, there happens to be. I just know this because I track the weather across the country on a pretty regular basis. Kind of makes sense. You get into the habit of doing it, and you just don't really stop. There's a large snowstorm front moving across the entire Northeast, and people are freaked out about it because it's fucking huge. Whether it actually materializes into what, instead of a normal storm, it looks pretty excessive.
And it
So,
was snowing in Pennsylvania this morning.
okay, so you know the deal. You know what's coming your guys' way. Like, if it's already snowing, have you seen the front?
No, I haven't. I haven't looked out my
It's
windows.
these are things that yeah, these are things that you want to look at. Like in your vertical, and it's not you're not yours is not the only one, but yours is actually pretty helpful to look at because I'll give you an example. If you got a client in Louisiana, right, and he's got 20 trucks outside of New Orleans, Nolans, whatever, um, you when would be a good time for him to probably have an overwhelming amount of clients or consumers that need a tow? When do you think?
Uh, April through November, when
Why?
hurricane season, hurricane season. When
Hurricanes and why? What happens with hurricanes in Nolans?
well, there are flooding and there
Flooding.
are.
Yeah, no, that's all you got to say. I mean, you could say more than that, but I'm just saying that's the obvious one, right? Flooding. And so
Mhm.
that happens after a hurricane, but during hurricane season. And so while that may not be the only time they get business, it's definitely an increased time in business. Plus, it's warmer weather and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, flooding is a big one for down there. Does that make as much sense up there in Pennsylvania?
No, not for
No, not as
Pennsylvania.
much, right? I mean, I'm sure y'all have flooding up there. Y'all got a fuckload of lakes and the Erie Canal and shit, but y'all don't have up there like entire cities built under the water level. You know, I'm sorry, I can't say that without laughing. Makes me just wonder what the fuck. But hey, it's true. Y'all don't have that, whereas Nolans does. So every time the levee breaks, without quoting any songs and going off into a riff, uh, guess what happens? Shit gets crazy. Cars get flooded. Hell, if you need proof of that, go. Have you ever seen? I don't know if you've seen this or not, but I've driven through um, Beaumont, Texas, on my way to Houston, twice over the course of because the first time I did it, I was on a tour, right? I was seeing people on the tour, and then I flew home from Houston to Vegas for a couple weeks for vacation. The second time, I flew out to Kentucky, scattered my dad's ashes, took care of his affairs, drove down to Florida, and then picked up my dog, which is his dog, right? And
Mhm.
had to drive her across country all the way to Vegas, all the way back. So I drove the exact same route. I drove down I-10, well, 75 to I-10 and straight over, all the way through Texas. And it's funny, not funny, haha, but strange because a year later, because that was in 2017 that I drove that, and they had just had flooding from Andrew. I
Hmm.
think it was Andrew in 2017, and then in 2018 they when I drove through in October, which is a year and change later, right? It was a year and change later from that same hurricane. While the Welcome Center was open at the state line, at the Texas state line, it was actually open because the first time it was underwater, I was kind of like, man, welcome to Texas. It's under fucking water. It's flooded. Awesome. Um, and the second time it was open, but there was still like a massive amount of debris. There were still cars that were like 3 feet of water in 3 feet of water in Beaumont all through. And then they got hit again this year. I don't know if you saw that, but like three, four fucking times they got hit with different hurricanes, and they kept getting flooded, 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 flooded. In the same year, only 2 years ago did they get hit, or 3 years ago did they get hit hard enough to flood out. You see what I'm saying? Like it's just not really a flood resistant area, and so
Yeah.
cars are going to get stuck and flooded out and all that kind of stuff, and are going to need a tow. So yeah, there's areas like that where that is going to apply. But for you, my point is this: weather watching. You don't necessarily have to chase storms, but watching weather is actually very beneficial because, as you know, wintertime approaches, and you live in Pennsylvania, so you know the deal. You're very much in the. I mean, you're in one of the 13 colonies, so you very much know what weather patterns are like up there and when to start looking for the cold weather. The fact that freak storms happen, but they usually roll in and you can see them on the map through the jet stream, right? If you've watched any kind of weather report here in the
Hmm.
US, they talk about that all the time. But then down south, they also have their own weather patterns and seasons and things to look for. Out west, Southwest specifically, shit gets crazy hot, and believe it or not, cars overheat. Batteries go bad because it's too damn hot. Cars overheat because it's too hot. Um, Cali cars just go bad because they just go bad. I mean, it's California, but
Hmm.
yeah, there's every place has its own thing. Up in the North Pacific Northwest, you've got a lot of rain, believe it or not, and when it's wet all the time, even if people drive in the wet and also snow, by the way, in the extreme north,
That's the
you,
skid.
exactly black
Hmm.
ice. You get just people that aren't used to, people on road trips that aren't used to to that much wet. I can't believe it still. When it rains in Vegas, I know it doesn't rain that often here, but my God, every year people are, in the rain after months and months of just nothing but dry with all that oil, right, that goes seeps down into the road. It actually comes up to the surface with a light drizzle. It's even worse versus a heavy rainfall. And what happens is all that oil comes up to the top and just makes it slick as snot. And people are doing 80 miles an hour. So in other words, they're doing the same exact speed they were doing when it was dry, which is above the speed limit in most cases, by the way, already under good conditions. And they're doing that when it's slick as snot. Can't believe you wouldn't believe some of the shit people get themselves into because they just don't know how to drive. That's crazy, but it's true, and that creates obviously a lot of demand um, for towing, right? So if you were a towing company out here in Vegas, your best months are going to be when it's hot as hell, but also during the rainy season towards fall, right? Where a surprise quarter inch of rain, catches us by surprise. I know it sounds funny, but it's true. And then you've got people racking up light poles left and right, man. Craziest shit I ever seen in my life. Um, Very few places have I ever gone where you'll see an accident and then literally on the next mile, not mile marker, but literally on the next light post, you'll see another accident. Uh,
Right.
Light post and light post. I've seen it, and not just once in my life, multiple times in this city. It's just, you know, have you ever seen a car flipped over on the interstate?
Only on video.
Only on video. Really? Do you know how
Yeah.
often I see it out here?
Car spun on the interstate. It was hydroplaning and it
Holy
ended up in the
shit.
median, but it just there's like a it didn't flip over. It stayed. All four wheels are in contact with the ground, but it was spinning
Wow.
around in circles. Yeah.
Oh wow, that's scary as shit too, I bet. Let me tell you, more times than not here in Vegas, more times than not on the interstate or like 215, I-15, any of the interstate system roads that we have here, more times than not, when I pass an accident, a car is at least one of the car, if not multiples, are flipped upside down,
Mm.
and it's usually an SUV. And it's crazy because I don't know how I've seen them do it on a 35-mile-an-hour street. I've seen cars upside down in this town, and I don't get it. I just they jump the curb and then I don't know they jerk the wheel or I don't know what, but something happened to where people just end up on their upside down. They end up on their heads, and it's the craziest damn thing I've ever seen. And in most of those cases, by the way, uh, you're going to need a rollback. Excuse me, flatbed, whatever, rollback. And this town, believe it or not, because of that, has more rollbacks available because of that kind of shit. Because I mean, they're going to have to like use the winch on the rollback to yank it over, and then it's probably not going to be able to drive because it's been sitting upside down for how long? Fuel, think oil in the engine. It's probably been running, it cut itself off. It may have even burned itself out because the oil's not designed in an engine to be upside down. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Like the fucking oil pan's on top now. If you so that's not going to work. And that's assuming it would even start at that point. So yeah, they're going to winch it onto the rollback and haul it off, right? Um,
Yeah.
but we have, I'm telling you, a disproportionate amount, the most disproportionate amount of wrecks I've ever seen in my life where vehicles end up upside down on the interstate anyway. I've seen a couple in California like that. Um, I-15 between California and Vegas is always pretty fucking bad, but usually for trucks, semi trucks, usually end up eating it more than regular traffic. Uh, but man, in Vegas, it's just SUV, soccer mom van, um, sometimes trucks, but usually SUVs that just eat it, upside down on their side. And cars on the
Yeah.
interstate usually end
I
up pretty
don't know
bad
the
as
answer.
well.
I don't know the answer to this question,
Sure.
William. Somebody who's a long haul driver,
Yeah.
they, you know, they're some of them are working independently. They,
Yeah.
as in,
Oh, yeah.
and then some of them are working for a company. I'm
Some of them
thinking
are
that the
contracted by the company where they're independent. So they're independent, but they tend to haul loads for a specific company, even though they're a contractor, if that makes sense, or independent.
if they were
Yeah.
broken down, they would
Yeah.
call the company and say, "Hey, we're broken down here." The company would probably have a contract with somebody
Fleet
close
service. Yeah.
by
Fleet service.
um, to
In
go
most
out.
cases. In most cases, it's fleet service, and fleet service has direct contact with somebody that's close enough. Yeah. If you're talking big rig, yeah.
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 Okay. All right. I was
But
just
there's
making
also
sure.
the option where, independents in a lot of cases, especially nowadays where they're cutting back and cutting costs and shit, companies are, independent means you're responsible for your own rig. And
Hmm.
so if you got a warranty or you got insurance that'll cover something like that, okay, great. But you're the one that's ultimately making the call. And so there's a ton of service centers for fleet service. And by the way, fleet service is a great expansion for you once you've dialed in towing vertical big rig wreckers and wrecker towing is going to be really good money for you to expand into because a lot of companies uh, want that kind of uh, how do I say this? Like a lot of the calls that they're going to get at a Flying J or a TNA or TA, not TNA, a travel TA. What's it called? Travel. God Almighty, TA. You look it up, you'll find it. A pilot. Any of those major Flying J, any of those major truck stops, right? Where they have a service station also for big rigs, by the way. Um,
Hmm.
they tend to have their own wreckers or wreckers on call that will go out and provide the service at the same time. Most of that's done through either calls from the fleet services I was talking about, or independents that know that are flying J 20 miles away. You know what I'm saying? And they just look them up on the phone nowadays and call them up and say, hey, Y'all got that wrecker available? Yeah, cool. Well, I'm 20 miles out. I'm on this mile mark or whatever. Come get me, right? And that's there's a lot of money in offering calls to fleet service as well as direct to anybody that's open to it. But in most cases, you're going to find, for example, I'm willing to bet um, you're going to find direct to companies like Flying J outside of the fleet service are going to make more money for you. And direct to pilot and direct to TA loves truck stop, right? Like there's a ton of fucking stops like that, but there's a few main ones that are, well, several that are just really known as like great places to stop in terms of rest stops across the country, and not just rest stops, but you know what I'm saying, like fuel up, service points, even for passenger vehicles. Um, those tend to be bigger fuel stations. The passenger vehicle side of a pilot's going to have 20 fucking pumps probably, if not 30. You know what I mean? Like it's a huge watering hole for gasoline and diesel, right? Um, but it's primarily there for the truckers, right? They got like islands, what they call islands, out in the back for the truckers to pull through, and they got double nozzles for tanks on both sides, right? And they're usually bigger nozzles. Like the nozzle on a freaking big rig fill up and on an island is just ridiculous. I used to drive a diesel truck, so I used to have fun. And if I ever found an island that was open, I'd pull my diesel in there and I'd fill it up real fast. It's a 35-gallon tank, so it's not a huge tank either. It's bigger than most, but it's not as big as a 110-gallon tank, right, on a big rig. So I used to fill up real quick and then just pay inside and run back out, and I was off, man. I was gone. While everybody else is still, messing around with trying to get diesel at the passenger vehicle pumps. I was like, nah, man, I'm going to the islands, and because they had no qualms about it, they had no issues with me doing that. As long as I wasn't taking or blocking up a space of one of the islands from a trucker, then they didn't care, you know. And anyway, there's a lot that goes into that, but I would say fleet service, but direct to those kinds of companies, you're going to see a lot more profit, a lot more value. It's going to be easy for you to transition into that because you know the towing game or the towing industry on passenger vehicles, not commercial vehicles, so much that very little market research is going to need to be done to expand into that vertical. A few shifts in your keywords and in your ad copy, and you're off to the races, man. You know. And
Yeah,
by the
so
way, those toes are worth more on average, by
yeah,
far worth
yeah,
more.
sure they are. I saw somebody, he said that a certain company, I think it was Agera, had the contract for Mercedes, and Mercedes wanted to pay him $130 to tow a G wagon 60 miles down the road, and he said, "No way am I going to do that for just $130." That was like $2 a laden mile, and he's wanting double or more um, than that. Um, and I was kind of thinking, well, the vehicle itself makes a difference as to what price they will charge.
Absolutely.
It's not just the mileage,
No.
but because somebody said, they were towing an R8 or R10, and that
Right.
was a $200 car or something, and it's like they're going to charge a whole lot more for an expensive car than simply a Toyota Camry, even though they're going the same mileage.
Well, it also depends on, like, I mean, exotic cars, for example. You may have to have a special ramp for the ramp on the rollback because it's so low profile of a car in a lot of cases for exotics that they're not going to make it up the rollback at the angle that it lands, which means you have to have like a wood ramp that they have to bring, and it's usually not something they always carry. So yeah, there's some special shit involved like that. Plus tie downs are a bit of a bitch because again, it's so goddamn low to the ground. Where are you going to hook to? All kinds of
Mm-hmm.
pains in the ass things. Then there's also things to consider like a Rolls Royce when it breaks down, for example. Do you know how do you know how Rolls handles um, roadside service for a Rolls
I would
Royce that's broke down on the side of
so
the road?
I thought they would have a contract with somebody that gives them
They
sort
not
of
only
like
have a
local
contract,
service.
they not only have contracts, right? Here's what happens. They pick you up in a vehicle carrier. They pick the car up in a vehicle carrier that's fully enclosed, and that's the equivalent of like loading it into the back of a truck, but at the same time, it's specially designed to pick up said
It's
vehicle,
not
right?
being that the Rolls Royce has broken
Correct.
down.
Correct.
Okay,
That's how much they care about their image and perception of the car.
okay,
Isn't that
okay.
stellar?
Yeah.
I mean, that's again like one of the many perks of like Medal of Honor status. You know what I'm saying? Like if you've got a Rolls, then whenever your ship breaks down, it's definitely it's not going to be seen on the back of a rollback, all redneck style, right? Like everybody else notice. See what I'm saying? Even
I
shit
know.
like a
I
Mercedes,
know.
you'll see it in the back of a rollback.
Um, just to change the subject a little bit,
Yeah,
there are those companies that transport vehicles from one place to
yeah. Vehicle
another.
transport. What about it?
This isn't quite the same thing as in this vertical, is it? Because
No.
the reason I'm mentioning it is that people would be, I've seen them load cars into a transport in order to take them to the drag strip, for example, and then you know,
Yeah.
and then they race the car down the drag strip, and then they load it back in, and they take it back to the garage. They don't actually drive the car to and from wherever they live to the drag strip. So I'm just kind of curious as to those kinds of companies. um, it's
No,
I would
vehicle
think
transport in most cases is not for that. Most people that go
okay,
to the drag strip, and again, the overwhelming majority, mind you, which is what we're after or not after, the overwhelming majority that go to a drag strip or a racetrack have their own trailer, right? And they're pulling it with their own truck. Um,
okay,
they usually have signs on the trailer and or the truck that say "not for hire." Have you seen that before? They
not
have to
not
have
really.
that actually because they need to explicitly say like I'm not for hire. Even though I'm towing this trailer, I'm not for hire. But vehicle transport is more for car dealerships and shit, where you'll have guys that are in business for themselves, where they've got like a dually, like a 3500 or 350 or whatever, with the two wheels on the back, right? And
Is
they'll
that
pull
is
a
that
fit. What? I'm sorry,
is that spelled as Dolly,
D
or
U
is it
A
spelled
L L Y or DUALIE, DUALIE. I
okay?
believe it's DUALIE. It's a dually. Anyway, the point is, they usually have a fifth wheel, and
Mm-hmm.
a fifth wheel is a trailer, and they make car transport fifth wheels. These are for the private guys. Like there are big rig guys that do this as well with those crazy looking contraptions that can put cars in multiple levels and shit,
Okay.
or two levels. And not those guys. They do it as well, vehicle transport. But there are guys that are independent that are smaller that do it with again with a private vehicle, but they are for hire, right? And they have to have licensing and all that, all the numbers listed on the side of the truck, just like DOT for big trucks. Only because they're doing things commercially, they have to label it properly. And that fifth wheel transport thing can actually hold a trailer can actually hold three or four cars, which means a lot of private guys I've seen up and down the roads will transport three or four cars at a time across the country if they need to, if the money's there. And
Mm-hmm.
that's mostly what vehicle transport's like, either that or the semi version of that with the crazy contraption um, trailer that I was explaining. Uh, but vehicle transport's not directly related to our kind of. Those are the when you buy a new car. Have you bought a new car in the states?
Only secondhand, only used.
Only second hand. Okay, so first hand, like if you buy brand new, typically a dealership will try to charge you what's called a
Del- Delivery
like
fee,
a. I'm sorry.
a delivery fee.
Yeah, like a delivery fee, which is them delivering it from the factory to the fucking dealership. They make you pay for that,
Yes,
and it's like
yes,
fuck
exactly.
you. Delivery, I'm here to pick it up. Like at the same time, again, see how fees really just rub people wrong. Anyway, it's but it is what it is, right? They charge what they charge. So, oh well. Uh,
All right.
and that's more vehicle transport, by the way. People that I know, I knew of guys have known in the past where they transported specifically and exclusively from factory to dealerships across the country, 3 or 4 at a time. Seriously, and they would just make runs left and right, nonstop, and did very well. But again, that's only going to last for so long in an economy that supports that. But they'd be the first to go, in other words. But man, every run they make, I mean, they're making a percentage of that delivery fee. Um, I'm not sure how much, to be honest, but that's because I never really looked into vehicle transport. I just know they made good enough money to buy the brand newest of newest trucks. The 3500 that had all the fucking gadgets and a brand new trailer that was just maxed out, triple axle trailer, just gorgeous, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they were sitting pretty. Truck was always clean, sitting pretty, making good money, and you could tell they were making good money. When you look at somebody and they got that smile, and they're doing well. That kind of smile.
That's
It
okay.
was yeah. But I never asked. I never asked because I wasn't trying to be rude. But yeah, I've seen that those guys make good money. Absolutely. But only when times are good and cars are being sold. So cars ain't being sold. They ain't got much traveling to do. You know. Anyway, are you good to go? You got everything you needed?
Yeah, I'm good to go. I just
Okay.
need to, as I said, decide who I'm going to call the 20 or 30 or 40 companies tomorrow, and
Okay.
then I will be uh,
On your
after
way. Yeah.
right on my way. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, uh, yeah, I'll do that, and I'll report back to you tomorrow.
Let's take it from there, one day at a time, my man. You do what you got to
All right.
do. Let's meet up, and we'll keep moving. We'll talk about the next thing and the next thing and so on. Yep.
Thank you.
All right. You're welcome. Okay, so I'm going to look at questions and comments here, and I think we're going to wrap it up. But I'm going to mute you, Julian, okay? Because there's a little bit of feedback on that end. Um, I see a comment come in. This is actually from the mentorship from the previous session, but since it's here and I did not answer this yet, I'm going to answer it here and then mark it down. Um, Adrian's asking, not Julian, but Adrian is asking, quick question. If I had a 1-800 number, should I put that on ClickFunnels client site? Um, I'm assuming you mean the agency website, right? Yes, that's not a bad idea, putting it at the top. And if so, should it route to the Dollar Central 800 link number that they can call? Not necessarily. You don't have to do that, but it's not a bad idea, right? Is there any advantage to doing this at all? Um, Let me read the rest of what you're asking here. Just asking because I think I've got a 1-800 number, and presently my client site, your agency site, got it, has a Fort Worth number that comes to my mobile. Yeah, put the 800 number definitely on that one. As far as whether you forward it directly to your cell phone or mobile or Dollar Central, the benefits of forwarding it to Dollar Central would be like recordings if you don't have that enabled through your cell phone or something, are going to be made available. You're also going to be able to, at some point, control the forwarding through Dollar Central to any number you want. Now, the interesting thing is if your 800 number has actually been purchased through Ring Ads, then you already have that kind of control in forwarding and recording. So, not as necessary, a bit redundant, if you will. But not a bad idea if you don't have that 800 number through Ring Ads. Okay, and that was Adrian that wrote that, so I'm going to write him real quick. Um, hey, answered this in the main group under 14th December or December 14th live stream at how many minutes? Let's see, we are 3 hours in at roughly 3 hours in. Smiley face. So he knows the deal. So he knows where I'm at. Man, I tell you, emojis give so much context. to text. I've been really on an emoji kick, not because I like emojis, but because man, it's really easy to tell that I'm in a good place or that I'm just not saying it to be an ass, right? Because some of the things can come off that way. I want to make sure that they don't come off that way in text. So easy to take things out of context when it's written in text, if that makes sense. Um, and let me hit the like button on that. So funny how that works, isn't it? Not the like button, but the context. Things can be taken out of context when it's in text. It can be taken out of context. It's one of the crazy things about text messaging and emails and shit that I'm not a big fan of. That's why I love doing calls more than anything. Okay, here we go. Got some comments. I'm going to have to pull up the, um, comment section. Here we go. Okay. Uh, wow, there's a lot of comments. Man, I missed a bunch. Sorry, guys. Uh, I had a Google Ad specialist call me. Rob says she recommended Enhanced CPC and Display Networks. I declined both. I love it. You're the man. You're now not paying the price for those specialists. Gotta love it. Art says how or price. Yes, that was correct. Those were the words. Not high intent. That's also correct. Good. You guys are paying attention. I love it. This is a good resource for negative keywords, support.google.com. I don't know what that is, but I'll have to look at it. It looks like it's an answer in support in the support community. It's probably not a bad place to start uh, for understanding negatives, but definitely operate with the operative, like I was talking about. It's very helpful. Art says, if I searched best tow truck with the intent to buy one and saw a call ad for a tow service and not for sale, I wouldn't click or call it. Putting best a negative would tank the campaign, in my opinion. I would agree with that. That's why we don't do that. SCAG is outdated. Single keyword ad group, for those of you that don't know, is outdated. I 100% agree with that. And Google Ads is moving away from that, believe it or not, more now than ever than they have in the past. It's still effective. It's just not as effective as what I teach now, 100%. And it's been that way for at least a year and a half, 2 years now. Uh, Close to actually almost 2 years. Good map for time zones I have open while dialing. That's very useful. Thank you for that, Art. Awesome. Let me love that. Adrian Bryan, good to see you back, brother. On the topic of goal setting, William, I've been following your advice to don't put pressure on myself. Good job, dude. Same as you told Julian today. Good. I'm trying to balance that advice with also setting goals for my company. It sounds like you're a little conflicted. I totally understand that, though. I want to set a new year goal for how many clients to close per month. What would be your advice for setting client acquisition goals? What advice would you tell a beginner, intermediate, or advanced pay-per-call member on setting goals to get clients? I would say focus on one client at a time, as opposed to setting goals. Um, Ultimately, there's not a goal that you could set, right, in this business model that you could not hit, especially if you're hanging around me, right? Because I'm going to make sure you get there. So my idea would be this: set an ultimate goal, like an overall goal, or like uh, forget about what you think you can do per month or what you think you can do per year, because that's when you start boxing yourself in, pressure or not. That's when you start limiting yourself as to what you even think you are capable of or possible to do, because there's going to be months and days where you can pull in way more than you ever thought possible. So I would say, and I know this is 3 hours in, so hopefully you're still tuning in. If not, uh, catch it on the replay. But the idea is, I want you to think about where you're. Think about, not from a goal perspective, like I was telling Julian earlier, but think of it as what do you need to do today? Right? If you've got a 2 hour call window, then what do you need to be able to do today? And I'll tell you, when you get super, super dialed in, you should be able to pull a client an hour. And that's when you're really humming, right? That's when you're really the most productive and most efficient you'll ever be. So if you're able to pull a client in every 2 hour session you do, you got a little bit of work to do, but you also have something that's predictable and that you can project out based on how many ever 2 hour sessions or 2 hour windows you can perform inside of a week, inside of a month, inside of a year. And a year is too far out to project. And the reason I say that is because things change so much from client 0 to client 10. I don't know if I said that in this group or it was in the mentorship. Everything kind of blurred together today. Been going for quite a while. Um, but zero to 10 is different client wise, acquisition wise, and how you set everything up in the agency versus 11 to 20 or 10 to 20, right? It's totally different. Um, 0 to 10, you're still getting your feet under you in terms of the industry that you're in, the vertical that you're in, setup, delivery, client management of expectations, the kind of clients you want. You've got a good idea, but you're still dialing that in to its finest point, right? It's not exactly set in stone yet. Um, you're also like confirming to yourself that you're not only is it possible, but that it's possible to turn a profit, and you can do so as a one man band, and you can quit your job if you need to. Like all these things kind of come to fruition, and you realize this stuff 0 to 10, right? And you start also realizing tracking all the stuff I've been saying from day one, right? Tracking, building the systems and processes out for when you have your first hire. And then 11 to 20 or 10 to 20, that's when all that stuff that I just mentioned kicks in. So when you get the company training site set up and you do your systems and processes and you're ready to start hiring, that's going to be in that range and beyond when all that stuff kind of kicks in. So two totally different mindsets. Also, there's going to be points and milestones where you're able to put in 8 hours a day versus 2 hours a day or 1 hour a day. There's going to be periods in time in your business where you're going to be able to hire somebody, staff member for each and every position I teach you to, versus half staff, right? And one or two staff members, right? Or your very first staff member. Each and every one of these places has its own not mindset, but place that you're going to be at mentally. So yeah, I guess kind of its own mindset in terms of a range of where you're going to be emotions wise and mentally, right? Um, and some of those months, in other words, like when you only have position one, you may only produce so many clients about like what you were doing. The difference is you don't have to do any of the responsibilities for position one. You just have to manage the KPIs for that, right? Whereas when you hire position one and two, or you've gotten to hire position two, now your entire sales process is, at least initially, is you fired yourself from it as a business owner. You're just managing now, and that's when things really. That's a big milestone. That's when you can take things and scale them up pretty quickly, actually. And so what if the first, you set your goal for, oh, this is what I can do for throughout the year as a one man band, those numbers start to make sense, yes. But when you start considering how many hires you have, when you hire them, how many months out of that year have you had a fully staffed sales team, right? That is better than you are, right, on the phone, and you want that, right? That that totally changes the numbers. And what happens when you add a second sales guy, a second closer, right? What happens when they both get better 3 months from now and do double the closes, right? Get double the amount of clients because you've incentivized it properly and train them ongoing training properly, right? Man, you can't really account for that, right? And so it's a much shorter time frame and goal. So instead of setting goals, I'd much rather see you just focus on here's what I need to do now today. Kind of like what we did with Julian. I think that's going to make the most sense for you, Adrian. Um, I know you can do it. I can feel the conflict in you on like I want to set a goal, but I also see what you're saying about the benefits of not setting one, but I also don't want to be lazy because I don't have a goal set. Here's what I'll tell you. Commit to the action of the next thing, the next piece, and always push towards the logical progression of what I've taught you because I know you've been around long enough. You've seen me teach this stuff for years and you know it works. Go for the next step, the next step, and the next step. And if you need help, obviously ask away, tune in to these kinds of sessions, especially this month. If there was ever a month to do it, it would be the month where I'm on live stream every damn day. Okay, so let's do this, man. You got it. And don't worry about setting goals. Worry about the next thing. Worry about the next piece. And when you got the pieces in place, then it's about acquiring client number one. Not about setting goals for client number 10 or 100 clients this year coming up. Just client number one. I'm telling you, you do that, and then you keep doing that for each client you get, client two, three, four, so on. And your priorities are going to shift, like I told you, 0 to 10, 10 to 20, right? That whole thing. And then beyond that, you're going to have the whole milestones hit but I'm here every step of the way, and I'm going to be able to point those out and help you with those mindset wise, and also not just mindset, but also the training and applying what I've given you to actually make that happen and happen in a big way for you. So um, that should walk you through. You asked what advice would I tell a beginner, intermediate, and advanced. It's the same thing. It's the same thing at every level. Guys that make six figures in this business, I'd tell them the exact same thing, because usually that's what gets the results is removing the expected outcome or an expected outcome, an expectation, and replacing it with action always goes much, much further down the road, much faster down the road towards hitting the goal they originally wanted to hit in the first place. You know, another trick is actually pretty useful, where if you take a post-it note here, like you can see I've got, and you write down just, I don't know, for the year. Let's say you want to hit 1,000 clients. Notice that's a large number. For most people, that's like, why would you say that from 0 to 1,000? Well, because I know the exponential growth that can occur within just a year, and that's entirely possible. And not only possible, but again, if you carry the momentum forward, highly likely. So 1,000 clients, right? And then what I'll do is I'll take that and I'll write down specific, a date. So I'll go December 31st, 2021. So that way I know it's by the end of um, next year, clients. So I'm very specific. 1,000 clients by 1,000 clients by December 31st. Please excuse the handwriting. So I wrote it down much like that. I don't know if you can see that. 1,000 clients by December 31st, 2021. And then what I'll do is I'll fold that up, and this is a Post-it, so it's a little sticky on one side, but I'm going to fold that up into quarters. And then here's what I'm going to do with it. I'm not going to pin it to you notice like it's a Post-it note, so I'm not going to like stick it to my screen. That's too high pressure. That's too much bullshit. I still got to focus on client number one, or let's say the prep work to even get to start prospecting for clients, right? So fuck that. I'm not looking at that, not just yet. But I've put it out there in the universe, folks. And I know a lot of you probably don't believe in that, or understand it, even if you do believe it or comprehend it. But I'm telling you, when you do that, when you put it out in the universe like that, and you set it off to the side somewhere for safekeeping in your desk or whatever, and set a calendar notification in 1 month to pull this back out and open it up and look at it. And then that's when you go rear view mirror, where am I at, right? Briefly, versus where I want to go. So this is where I want to go, out in the distance in front, right? Front windshield. I got to look in the rearview mirror and be like, oh, I'm at 12 clients already. Fuck. Is that near 1,000? No. Is it closer to 1,000 than you were if you'd have had it staring at you? Yes, right. Now here's the interesting thing. You do that once a month. By the time you get to like month 3, month 4, maybe month 5, depending on your momentum, you're going to be able to pull this out. You're going to be most likely out of your job or out of a 9 to 5, uh, or independent enough time wise where you can put much more time in. You're going to have some staff members most likely in place, especially by month 5. And you're going to pull this out and go, man, I'm at like 60 clients. I'm still not as close as I'd like to be to this 1,000 clients, but that's the wrong way to look at it. Now you should have enough infrastructure, staff, resources, financial resources in place, experience, uh, business owner chops. Even a month or two is still far more than what you had way back at day 0, right? Way more. And you're at 60 clients, so that's 6%. That's not nothing, okay? That's not 1%, that's not 5, that's 6%. And you also haven't considered how much growth has happened to get to 6% from zero initially. But how much would it take to double that, right? How much would it take to double that? And are you having to use any of your time, or how much of your time rather, are you using to double that from 6 to 12? And then from 12 to 24. So here's the interesting thing. Let's say 3 months in, you work your ass off, you get to that point where you've got 60 clients. Let's round down. Let's go 50 clients. Okay, so 50 clients in 3 months, actually not only possible, but quite simple to do. If you do what I'm saying, put this shit away, right? Look at it once a month, set your reminder, look at it once a month. And look at it differently every month that you pull it out, because you're going to look at it and be like, okay, I'm closer. I'm not as close as I want to be, that whole thing. Put it back, go back to work. Pull it back out and go, man, I've got every position hired for now. I'm 3 months in, and I may not be where I want to be. And I'm only at 50 clients. I'm 5%. I've still got 95% left to hit, but I also have 9 months to do that. And if every 90 days I double the business, listen to this. If every 90 days I double the business, where would I be? Well, I'd be at 50 clients. I'd go to 100 clients in 90 days. And then the next 90, I'd go from 100 to 200, and then from 200 to 400. Now, is 400 clients 1,000 clients? No, it is not. But 400 out of 1,000 is 40% of the way there. See what I'm saying? And if you think you can't double the business every 90 days, you're absolutely crazy, because I can teach you how to build the systems and processes to do that easily without taking up 12, 16 hours a day. Okay. You can definitely do that with just a few hours a day, maintaining that schedule. There's no problem with that. Um, but again, put the focus where it needs to be. Now, if you did that, worst case, you'd have 400 clients, which, by the way, 400 clients is just an assload of clients, a lot of money. That's a seven-figure agency. There's no doubt in my mind, in most cases, in almost every case, actually. Um, the good news is the first 90 days of the next new year, right? You go from 400 to 800. Now where are you? This is you might as well go ahead and just toss it out the fucking window, or well, don't do that because that's littering, but throw it in the trash, throw it in the shredder, feed the shredder, because it's no longer, it's inevitable at that point to go from 800 to 1600. You're going to smash this thousand. See what I'm saying? And you're really going to have to evaluate what next year's goal is going to be, because 1,000 ain't going to cut it, and you're at 400. So does it look like initially that you'll hit 1,000 so fast? No, it doesn't. But when you consider that double every 90 days, and you can do something like that easily, that also means by the end of the second year, you should be solid eight figures. Um, and that's not a joke. Uh, Again, all from not setting a goal, or setting a goal and putting it away, putting it over to the side so you can get shit done and come back to it. That's, and schedule obviously calendar notifications for that kind of activity. But um, hopefully that helps. And it was a great question, great series of questions you asked. I wouldn't necessarily set a goal like that. I would just do what I just said. Art says Google recently increased my account threshold billing. Feels like a rite of passage. I love it. Love it. I'm gonna love that. Art says be an industry disruptor. Yes, sir. Love that too. Uh, Adrian says every time Julian comes on live, I learn so much. Even though I'm in a completely different niche, I appreciate your question, sir. Yes, sir. I agree with that. Adrian's 100% correct. A lot of good stuff covered, a lot of progress. David says, I have to get on another call. Be well, William, and all. I appreciate that. Love you. And looks like Robert, I don't think there's any other questions. I think this is it. So I'm going to do this last call. Last call for comments, questions. I love you guys. I'm going to answer this question and then we'll bounce if I don't see anything else pop through. Rob says, hey, William, I routed my Dollar Central caller ID to forward to my Ring Ads 800 number. When I call my Dollar Central caller ID number from my cell phone, holy shit, this is crazy. This is talking, I don't know. Let me back up. It's been a minute. I've been going 3.5 hours. Well, really, 6.5 hours. Hey, William, got that. I routed my Dollar Central caller ID, okay, to forward to my Ring Ads 800 number. which I don't know why you would do that, but okay. When I called my Dollar Central number from my cell phone, my Ring Ads dialer rings, but it shows an error, Twilio connection lost. The call is already in session. Any ideas to fix this? Uh, it sounds like you're trying to call yourself, dude. You can't do that. It sounds like your forwarding is off. Like, and I think your the concept of why you're forwarding to where is off as well. Um, if you're using Dollar Central, use 800 link because you need that for the SIP technology, right? And forward that direct to your cell phone so that you can take or your mobile or a landline so that you can take your prospects calls and close some clients, right? You don't have to forward that to Ring Ads. I wouldn't do that if I were you. I did that originally in the COVID Client Challenge because at that time I did not have a sound mixer like I have over to my left now, where I can take live phone calls from the phone to and from where you can hear both sides of the conversation through the audio mixer on, for example, a live stream, which means, by the way, surprise, surprise, you'll actually be able to hear me close clients when I pick up the Prime sessions again on the phone, live, both sides of the conversation through a live stream, which is just like, it's almost like taking a call, but not taking a call. Kind of weird. Taking a sales call live. It's kind of cool without the other party knowing they're on a live stream. It's interesting. But you shouldn't need to forward your Dollar Central to Ring Ads. Should not be necessary. Dollar Central records calls as well, so shouldn't be an issue. And I'm pretty sure that's why you have a connection lost. What's the best way to record that call? Again, 800 link records. So hopefully that answers your question. Check with Dollar Central on that and how to see about those recordings. But there, I believe it's 800 link does do the recordings, does record. So I know they record voice messages. So any kind of voicemail that's left, 800 link does record those. But I'm pretty sure they record the calls. So anyway, I'm going to bounce out of here. Looks like we're all good. Everybody's caught up. Good to go. Appreciate you. Love you. I know it's been a long ass day. A lot of calls. I've actually watched it go dark. Fucking hate winter because it goes dark. I don't hate it. That's a strong word. I'm not a big fan of time changes and it staying dark early. So here soon in a few days, it's going to be winter solstice, which means it's only going to get better from there. In those terms, it's going to be starting to get days are going to start getting longer again, which is great. Can't wait for it. That said, thanks for all the help today, Marathon Man. Love it. Sometimes I am a marathon man. Sometimes I'm can't get out of bed right. I do get out of bed, but I can't get out of bed right. Let's say it that way. And you do what you got to do anyway, right? But anyway, I love you, appreciate all of you, and keep doing what you're doing. Keep working hard. Julian, looking for big things from you, sir. Same thing from you, Adrian. Not that I'm not looking for it from everybody that I speak to or haven't spoken to, but you guys especially, because you've been around for quite some time, and I love you guys, and I want to see you succeed in this model, and I don't want to see you get in your own way at all. Um, and I'm prepared to do just like I know you know this. I'm prepared to do whatever it takes to make sure that that happens for you guys. You've got to match me on that though, right? You've got to match me on that. I can't want it more than you. I can want it as much as you, but I can't want it more than you. I guess I can, but it's not going to do you any good if you don't match me on it, right? So you match me on it. We're going to make this shit happen for you, no doubt. That said, I'm going to bounce out of here because it has been almost 6.5 hours total for me today. That's fucking nuts, but in a good way. I love you guys. Take it easy. I'll see you tomorrow, 11 a.m. here for the December Dash Daily Call in the main group on the 15th. All right. Bye for now, guys.
Cool. Cool. UFO. Back on my shit with a new advantage. I leave it up to you to settle the damage. Diamond, yeah, I know it's foreign to him. I came from the guts of rural Alabama. Steph Curry wrist, watch with the handle. Simple motors, gotta lead by example. Not too many make it out when they doubt. Never been about bailing off of my route. Rain gang, got the city HD. Hate to see my brother die every week. Numb to your vision. My life got me too fucked up. Disrespect to make a nigga go dumb. Pillow talking while you nursing that bitch and turn you to a scrub. I let prices from the plug. Bay Shore, Ocean View, or win Adidas with the boots. Niggas out here slinging arbitrage, so the money really no excuse. Welcome to the realm.